It's 7 o'clock. The polls have just closed across the province. Welcome to this municipal election special on CBC Radio. We're also streaming on our CBC Nova Scotia website, on the CBC NS YouTube page, and on CBC Gem. I'm Portia Clark. Welcome to the show. We say it regularly, municipal politics often has the lowest voter turnout, but has the biggest impact on our day-to-day lives. And this election is particularly notable. Nova Scotia's at a crossroads. Our population's growing, our climate's changing. And during the next 3 hours or so, we're going to learn who's going to lead us through the next 4 years. We have a team of people bringing you our coverage tonight. We have reporters at various campaign get-togethers, and we have Steve Sutherland at our CBC Cape Breton studio, in Halifax, Municipal Affairs reporter Haley Ryan, and on our results desk, Sandy Smith. So the gang's all here. Welcome back. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening, Portia.
Hello.
I'll have more opportunities
Sandy.
to say municipal in a one fell swoop tonight.
I also noticed, Portia, that you said in 3 hours-ish.
Maybe. We'll see how it goes.
You never know.
We could be very late with our results tonight. And on our results desk, Sandy Smith, welcome back.
Thank you.
You're wearing a beautiful blue electric shirt,
I
the
know
same
it
one you
looks-
wore on the last day you retired, but here you are again.
Yeah, here I am retiring a second time. No, it could be a long night, although it could also be very soon before we have the very first results, because there are about a dozen municipalities around the province where the results will all be electronic, and we could have those in the next half hour or so. So that is something to watch for. And in putting together, one of my colleagues, Ruth Davenport, has put together an interesting quick glimpse. I'll just give you three quick numbers that by some point of the last day or two, depending on when you took these numbers, 3 communities in this province have had voter turnouts in excess of 50% in advance polls alone.
Wow, so there's a story right there.
Annapolis Royal at 50, Oxford at 58, Lunenburg at 59, and that was around 11 this morning.
Okay,
so
what's going on
There's been
in...
considerable interest, and then, of course, for the bigger communities, Halifax, Cape Breton region, we've been told not to expect results for at least an hour or so. It's going to be about 8 o'clock before the first numbers come in from either of those. And in the meantime, in between, we'll get whatever results come in over to you, Portia, as soon as we're aware.
Okay,
Portia.
Sounds great. Hey, Steve.
Only could you entice Sandy Smith out of retirement and Mai Tais under the palm trees with a municipal election night.
I know, he could be lounging,
so
doing
Sandy
absolutely
Smith.
anything. He's spending the evening with us. Thank you, Sandy.
My pleasure.
I'm
Nice
just
to
a
hear
li-
you, Sandy.
Just a little bit relieved to have you here with us as well, seeing as you're so good at bringing us results. We've had a few elections together. Glad to do another one. Haley's here with us too, Municipal Affairs reporter for CBC Nova Scotia. And Haley, you've been covering this election and, of course, municipal affairs for some time. It's your first CBC municipal election. So
it is.
Glad to have you with us too.
Yes, it's exciting. Yeah.
What stood out for you so far?
So far, I'd say, it's definitely a change campaign and a change election. Although we do have quite a few acclamations in a lot of municipalities. In one town, Mulgrave, they're not going to get an election at all. There are still a few, we have a dozen, actually. We have 14 new mayors across the province for sure. And those are either people that were acclaimed or there's a battle. So we're going to have a lot of new faces in all these municipalities across the province. And with lots of new people, as you mentioned, we have lots of folks have moved to Nova Scotia. There's a lot of potential maybe for getting more votes out this time around. And so it's happy to hear that 50% are up. That's good numbers.
So far, so good. And it may be down to what's happening in those communities or the fact that people are just more engaged overall, or as you say, new mayors, and in some cases entirely new councils, if not new mayors too. So plenty of change. And that's not just in HRM. We'll be getting the first new mayor in 12 years. CBRM is also going to get a new mayor or maybe a new old mayor, Steve.
That's a good way to put it, because we have no fewer than 9 candidates. This is the most we've ever had on a slate for mayor in the history of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, going back to its formation in 1995. And like you say, we're guaranteed to have a new mayor because Amanda McDougall has decided not to reoffer after her first term as mayor, which followed her first term as councillor. And she had some very specific reasons for that. But it's possible we could have a new old mayor because Cecil Clark, former cabinet minister, former Speaker of the House, former candidate for the leadership for the Progressive Conservative Party in Nova Scotia, and former true-term mayor for the CBRM, is back for another go at it. And I think there's no one who would argue with the fact that he's probably one of the leading candidates this time around. But it's not just him. He's up against, of course, 8 other people, including someone who has come close to unseating preceding him in the past, Rankin McSween, who, it must be said, has a similar campaign organization as Amanda McDougall had the last time out. So if you wanted to perhaps be overly trite about it, you could say this is the progressives and the establishment, just very generally speaking, although municipal politics, things don't always line up as precisely as they do in other cases.
Yeah, so will Cape Breton want to put on maybe a comfortable pair of shoes or a brand new pair?
That is the question, yeah, because it's interesting because I've been talking with people in different spots over the last little while. I've heard people say, I'm going to go with Cecil because it's something comfortable. I don't know what to expect otherwise. But I've also heard people, for instance, after our debate, the name Joe Ward came up a little more often than you might have expected to in the beginning. Now, Joe Ward is interesting. He's someone who ran his campaign entirely online. Now, whether or not you can do that in a conventional campaign and be a serious candidate these days and be a real contender is a question. But our debate last week at Center 200 really had people mentioning his name more often, in my opinion, including today, someone I ran into who was going into the polling station. And speaking of a possible new old mayor, we have our municipal affairs correspondent for the CBRM, Tom Ayers, standing by, where Cecil Clark is getting ready to hear the results. Tom.
Hi, Steve. I'm at Cecil Clark's election night headquarters in the New Horizons Achievement Center in Openhearth Park. Mr. Clark is not here himself. He's back home, and I'm told that he'll be arriving after the advance poll numbers are released. So there's a couple of dozen people here now, and there's lots of room for more to come. The volunteers here so far are feeling pretty positive about the campaign and obviously waiting for the first results to come in.
So is it a Cecil Rankin thing?
Well, there is that rematch aspect to it, but as you say, there's 7 other candidates as well. The Cecil and Rankin ran against each other in 2012 and again in 2016. First time, Clark beat McSween by 10,000 votes. McSween did come in second in that race, but Clark had a healthy margin. The following election in 2016, Clark's vote share dropped and McSween's grew. Clark still won, but only by 1,300 votes. And then in the last election in 2020, McSween stayed out of the race and instead was backing Amanda McDougall. And again, Clark's share of the vote dropped in that contest, and McDougall ended up winning by nearly 4,000 votes.
Now, Sandy mentioned that it may be a little bit before we hear results for the HRM and the CBRM. What's your sense from the electoral officer?
My sense from the electoral officer?
About when we're going to hear some results in the CBRM?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm told that they probably be in around 8 o'clock, so it could be a while yet before we get some results. I see they've put up a large screen TV hooked up to a computer to get the live results when they do land, but I think it's going to be a bit yet.
All right, good stuff, Tom. We'll be touching base with you later on. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Our municipal affairs correspondent for the CBRM, Tom Ayers, at Cecil Clark's campaign in Sydney. And Portia, Sandy was talking about the e-vote earlier. CBRM is a hybrid model, so they had an e-vote that ended on Tuesday. So as of Tuesday, 22,000 voters in the CBRM had already cast their electronic ballot. Today was paper ballots only. So the question will be how many people turned out in the conventional way. If you judge on past numbers, about 50% of the conventional voter turnout has already voted in the CBRM, but we won't know until we get those numbers in about an hour.
Okay, similar model to here in HRM, Steve, where we had electronic voting until Wednesday and then in-person voting today. In the electronic or advanced voting, 25% turnout, which sounds pretty promising for Halifax, which saw 40% turnout overall in 2020. So we may see in many jurisdictions voter turnout is high, and that might be in this instance in Halifax because we have an interesting mayoral race too, which we'll get into in a moment. More than 9 candidates in CBRM. There's 16 people who've been running for mayor in Halifax, and it's been really interesting to watch. Every election is a chance to see our democracy in action, and it seems like more people are paying attention to it this time around. For people who run the student vote program, it's a chance to maybe teach people why it's important to participate, get them engaged in some of the issues. The nonpartisan group Civics has been running the student vote program in our schools. You might have heard about it from your kids. They're learning about the issues and getting to cast some parallel ballots in the lead up to Election Day. And Trevor Pierce is on the line with us. He's a teacher at Island View High School in Eastern Passage. Hello, Trevor.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Well, thanks for spending some of your election day with us. The student vote program, I called it parallel ballots, not a mock election. Is that important?
That is important because it does matter. It does matter to the students and the teachers, and these students go home to their parents. And we found that in areas where students vote, more people in the community vote.
So they're going home and talking to their parents and maybe getting them interested in what's going on?
They certainly are, yes. Yep.
What happened when you had a candidates debate at your school this past week? How did that go?
That went amazingly well. The candidates agreed to come weeks in advance. The whole school turned out as a whole school assembly for an hour and 15 minutes. And the school was buzzing after that. Students were talking to each other about what they heard, who they were going to vote for. And, it was a buzz. It was quite exciting.
We'd like to hear more of that outside of the schools, but I'm glad to hear it happened there. So you're in Eastern Passage. Your candidates there are Becky Kent, Keith Morrison, and John Paul. Is that right?
That's correct, yep.
Okay. And were the kids impressed with one of them more than the other, or what were their impressions?
It was a pretty close race overall, and I was quite surprised. Becky's been around for quite a long time in this area in different roles, so she's very prominent. But the other two candidates represented themselves very well, and our results came out pretty close.
Okay, so no one in the lead in that district, in District 3?
Well, I guess I can release the results now that the polls are closed.
Break it wide open.
Keith Morrison came out ahead by 29 votes over John Paul.
Very tight. That might be grounds for a recount.
Possibly, yes.
So beyond the vote, and it's interesting to see that, and we'll see if the parallel vote matches that with Keith Morrison taking that seat there. We'll see if that bears out as we get some actual results a little later tonight. But other than the vote itself, which sounds like the kids got right into, what else do you do leading up to today, to Election Day, Trevor?
Well, Civics provides all the teachers, all the schools with resources, both digital and on paper. They had students ask questions of all the mayoral candidates, and so we were able to watch videos of those candidates answering questions as well. So we knew some of the 16 that were on the ballot today. I teach lessons in my class, and I run small, mini debates and whatnot in my class just to get them talking about the issues, and then we talk about difference between municipal and provincial, what kinds of things that happen around the building as we work our way towards the forum, the debate, and then the student vote itself.
Right, and then the results tonight, which I hope some of your students are watching or listening to along with us as we bring them to you. Well, we may have created in your school some future voters, or maybe even people who will be on the ballot themselves, once they get their driver's licenses.
We can hope. Yep.
We can hope. Trevor, good to talk to you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
That's Trevor Pierce. He's a teacher at Island View High School in Eastern Passage. He helps run the student vote program at the school there. Steve.
Portia, I wish Mr. Pierce was my teacher.
We might have run ourselves, right?
No, not on your life. I always say it's easier to ask the questions than to answer them, right?
I'm with you on that.
And, we had a student vote here, too, at Fairview Elementary on the north side, and another great teacher, Nita Kumar-Britton, full of energy, full of beans, and always on the ball when it comes to democratic exercise. They actually held a watch party at the school on the night of our debate out of Center 200, and they watched the live stream.
And I think they actually threw some questions into it, if I'm not wrong.
The very first question I asked was inspired by a young girl at Fairview Elementary School. So she got the conversation started that night. They contacted us ahead of time. The class all decided they wanted to know what experience that the mayoral candidates had and that made them worth being mayor, and that's the one I started with.
Yeah, kids ask the best questions.
That's darn right. And of course, last time around, the reason we talked about former two-time mayor Cecil Clark being in the running again, the reason he wasn't in last time is the next person we're going to hear from. So the outgoing mayor of the CBRM has already cast her vote, Portia, but this time around, she did not have the opportunity to choose her own name. Amanda McDougall was a first-term councillor when she took the mayor's chair from longtime politico Cecil Clark 4 years ago, and today marks the beginning of an end of a groundbreaking and a tumultuous 4 years in office as the first ever female mayor of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, and Mayor McDougall posted her goodbye message to Facebook just a few hours ago. I guess I have one more chance to say hello, Mayor McDougall.
Well, hey, Steve. I'm so happy that we get to do this tonight.
So what's going through your mind as the polls close and you get ready to close the door on this chapter?
So honestly, I think I'm thinking about you and the CBC team a little bit, because I think about, how many years ago were we talking about the MV minor, and I was just this kid working in a community center, trying to stand up for my community. And that's what led me to run for council in 2012 and unsuccessfully, I guess you should say, remarkably unsuccessfully, and that experience. But then 2016 becoming District 8 councillor, and then 2020 becoming mayor. I don't know. I've had your voice and so many of your colleagues helping me understand this role along the way. And I hope you don't mind if I take a moment just to say thank you for that, because you have always kept me honest and questioning myself sometimes, which is a good thing for an elected official. But I just want to say thanks.
Well, thank you for always being there when we called. I wonder, now there were some key things that entered your decision to not reoffer this time. So let's talk about what was the turning point for you, because we talked earlier in 2024 and you said you were poring over it, you were turning it over in your mind. What happened to make you say, I'm not going to do it this time?
Do you know what? It was the winter storm. And so leading up to that, I've been very honest with the public about some of the harder moments I've had. And usually that has to do with my children and my family, when things weren't about politics, when it was taken into a very personal area of my life. So talking about MS, having Down syndrome, using the R word as a tactic to hurt me. Okay, I get it. People are going to do this on social media because they're anonymous. But during the snowstorm, after being, sequestered to my kitchen, that was my emergency management office essentially, and telling my husband, hey, go deal with the kids because I got to go manage a snowstorm. Finally, we were freed after a number of days, and my husband said, look, you're also a mom, and you're also my wife. I got to get out there and clean up this yard. Please, just take the kids out. Go get some groceries, do some things. I need to go do some work around the house. And so I took them to McDonald's, and somebody took a picture of me and my children at McDonald's and put it on the rant room. And the whole air of that was, oh, isn't it nice to be the mayor? She gets to go to McDonald's while we're all suffering. And I'm like, enough is enough. Just leave my kids alone. And my husband was so hurt by that, because he's seen the amount of work and he saw the sacrifice that I was putting into my family, trying to make sure everybody was safe and everybody was okay during such a hard time. And I just thought, you know what, done. I can't keep doing this to my family.
What about ignoring what's on social media?
Impossible. It's an easy thing to say, hey, ignore it. But Steve, even this morning, the first thing I do when I wake up, I open my eyes, I grab my phone from my bedside table, and I look online to see if there's any notifications of my name. I look in the paper to see if there's anything about me. You can't ignore it. You need to know what's happening. And if you're unaware, that means you're not doing your job either. You have to know what's happening. And I can't do that part of the job and be a good mom anymore.
This time around, interestingly, we have one female candidate out of 9 for mayor and one female candidate in the entire roster of 21 candidates in the CBRM.
It's heartbreaking. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. I was listening to that story about the remarkable teacher from Cole Harbour and what they were doing with students and trying to engage them. And what Nita Kumar-Britton does as well, having watch parties about the debate. So the night of the CBC mayoral debate, I had a group of embers, wonderful young women who I've been spending time with over the last number of years, teaching them about the democratic process. And we're sitting in my office, we're eating some candy, and the debate comes on, and the comments are, where's all the women? It's all men. And to them, they're seeing a lack of diversity. It's not just about genders, but the lack of diversity in folks running it's sad, because it doesn't represent our community that has been growing so much. We have people from all over the world that have called CBRM home, and we're not seeing that in the electoral process, and it's very problematic, because how can people who do not truly represent the community make decisions for people that they have no idea what they're going through, what their story is, what their experience is?
Amanda McDougall, thanks for tonight. Thanks for the past 4 years. And pretty soon you can sit back and not have to make those decisions every morning.
Well, take care. And thank you again to the CBC for just wonderful coverage and honest reporting.
Amanda McDougall is the outgoing mayor of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. This is Steve Sutherland in Sydney during our election results show. And Portia, we have some results here in the mayoral race. One of 131 polls reporting, and it should be said this must be the e-vote. We must be getting the e-vote for the mayor, the advance vote, earlier than we expected, getting some of the ones from the districts. And there's a commanding lead for Cecil Clark. And here's what's interesting. Joe Ward is the second. No one would have put Joe Ward, I think it might be fair to say, except for Joe, in the front runner in the very beginning, because he was running a campaign entirely online. He has no political experience, longtime critic online of the CBRM. So with one of 131 polls reported, this is the advance vote, I'm assuming, the e-vote that was just posted to the CBRM website. Cecil Clark is in the lead with 7,636 votes. Joe Ward is second with 1,000 votes behind, 5,529 votes. Rankin McSween, about 1,800 votes behind that at 4,600 and change. After that, it's James Edwards in fourth place with 2,600 votes. And then Archie McKinnon, Carla George, Donnie Bassage, former councillor Vince Hall from about 20 years ago, and Kevin McEachern pulling up the final there. So that is 35% vote so far for Cecil Clark, former mayor. Perhaps on the road to coming back in. Joe Ward, challenger, coming up the middle and taking 26% of the vote so far.
Oh, that's interesting, the way that vote is shaping up, considering that Joe Ward was, sort of in Amanda McDougall's camp and connected with Rankin McSween. He may actually be the one who takes that new pair of shoes vote this time around.
And one thing to comment on, though, is that that's a solid turnout for Joe Ward in the e-vote, but he ran his campaign entirely online, and he's known as an online denizen, an online commentator, reeling out the articles and the videos by the mittful.
So that might play in his favor, the e-vote.
And the thing is, today was only paper ballots. And in the past, we've had about a 50% voter turnout on e-vote and a 50% in the paper ballot in the times we've had a hybrid vote in the CBRM. So Cecil Clark is a longtime campaigner. He's campaigned at all three levels. He's won at two of those three levels, and he's got a ground game. He's got people calling you up saying, "Hello, Mrs. Smith. Is anyone available to drive you to the poll? Our records show you've supported us in the past." So that might be a deciding factor today.
All right. So in other words, don't get too excited over there at the Joe Ward Party Palace tonight. It's still
Is that the
early.
official? Is that what they're calling it?
We'll make it so. We do have some other results coming in too from the mainland. Sandy, what are you seeing?
Yeah, let's go to the town of Shelburne, where Stanley Tanny Jacklin has just won the race to be mayor. He was elected with a slightly more than 500 votes, a comfortable win over Sherry Doan, who was the other person running. Sherry Doan with about 200 and change. And then we also have a full council elected. We might get to that a bit later in the broadcast. I will also pass on that we've heard from Yarmouth, and Pam Mood has been re-elected the mayor there. And if you could just give me a moment, if you two want to talk, you and Haley would like to discuss those results. There are also some results in from Guysborough, and I'll just need a moment to have a look there.
Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a couple of contrasts there. Pam Mood, longtime mayor, expected to return to that office, but it's all new in Shelburne.
Yeah. It's to see the, as far as we're aware, this would be Shelburne's first black mayor. So obviously that's a very historic African Nova Scotian community in Shelburne. So that's a big win for Jacklin tonight.
And what was the contest there? He was up against someone else who was not also, an experienced politician.
Yeah, it was two newcomers. Yeah. Both Jacklin and Sherry Doan are, they were two new people, right, coming in. They didn't have any council experience. Sherry is a business person. She has, Chamber of Commerce ties and a business executive in Shelburne. And then Stanley Jacklin is retired NSCC instructor. He's a machinist and a veteran. So, both really, people with ties to the community and have different sectors of the population. So, it'll be interesting to see Jacklin now see how he does in the chair, in the mayor's chair.
Straight to the top, and what kind of council, we don't have all of the results for the councillors in Shelburne yet, but what kind of council could he potentially be leading? Will it be a lot of new, or do we have a lot of acclamations there?
I can give you those results if you'd like, and then come back to the Guysborough in a moment. I'll just go back to Shelburne. The councillors who are elected, the person with the highest number of votes was Elizabeth Acker at 542. Next behind her, Sheldon Ringer, also more than 500. Donnie Acker at 300 and change, and Therese Cruz at 410. So there are the 4 councillors who will be working with the new mayor, Tandy Jacklin. So everybody else who ran, and there were a fair number of people who ran in Shelburne, another 2, 4, 5 people who didn't make the cut. So those results are in, and if you care to discuss further, I'll go back now and find the Guysborough result, because that was just one. Guysborough is a case where we had only one councillor spot that was open. The others were all acclaimed.
So just going by what Sandy was saying there, so we have some incumbents that won't be a totally new council. So Elizabeth Acker and Sheldon Ringer. Is that what Sandy also did say?
I believe I did.
Okay, great.
I'm over in Guysborough now.
Some experience.
Yes. There was some experience on the council, and then a couple newcomers as well. Donald Acker was not an incumbent. So.
Okay. Mayor-elect Jacklin, the town of Shelburne, big change there. And Sandy, you mentioned Guysborough, which had a very short race, a small race. There was just one. And did we see a return of the incumbent mayor there, or warden?
Warden, yeah.
Susan Cashin has won that with 224 votes. So Vernon Pitts
is defeated,
going down 106 votes. So a 2-to-1 margin there, slightly better than 2-to-1 for Susan Cashin to defeat the incumbent Vernon Pitts.
We have been in a long time.
We have a bit of a thread here of political neophytes coming into office, along with Mayor-elect Jacklin, but Susan Cashin, who is not, well known in political circles. I think has been a community organizer, but has not been in politics before. Steve?
It'd be interesting to consider the last time out what happened in Richmond County, as long as we're talking about some of the rural areas and changeover, because as you may or may not recall, Portia, I think it's not unfair to say that the previous Richmond County Council had been known for its dysfunction. We've had CEOs fired, we've had a turnover in wardens, we've had financial scandals. So the last time out in 2020, we had an entire switchover in that council. All the incumbents kicked out, all new people in on a reform ticket. So it'd be interesting to see if that trend, if people were happy with going with something new and something fresh in that particular district. You're also speaking earlier about racialized candidates. And in the CBRM, I think we only, I stand to be corrected because I don't know everybody's background, but I think we only have 2 black candidates in all of the CBRM, one of whom is Lauren Green. He's the one who got in last time. And Gary Borden, both in Whitney Piers, a well-known African Nova Scotian community in Cape Breton. And interestingly, we actually have 3 Indigenous candidates at least in Cape Breton Island, one for District 3 in CBRM. Blue Marshall has gotten in the past and has been really good at rallying the Escazone vote. But also we have 2 women running in a riding that has for a long time been represented by men, and for several elections been represented through acclamation. And one of them is a former chief Obama cook, Mary Louise Bernard. So that's an interesting race to watch, because the longtime councillor there, Paul McNeil, is sitting out this time. So that one's wide open. And again, if they can rally the support of their communities, it'd be interesting to watch that one in Inverness County, or Victoria County, I'm sorry.
All right, we'll see how those turn out in Halifax region. There's a potential to have, just based on the slate of candidates, potential of 4 black councillors and a black mayor. Daryl Johnson is running for mayor, and so potentially that could be the scenario. It is unlikely, but that's one to watch. Sandy, you have results from elsewhere.
Yeah, one more result to pass on that's just come in. It's from the town of Middleton in the Annapolis Valley, and voter turnout there was at 33%. A lot of acclamations, or the Mayor Gail Smith was reacclaimed. There was only one person running for council who was not going to make it. So there are the full council of 6, 7. So maybe what's simplest for both the folks in Middleton and people who live elsewhere, I'll tell you who did not make it, as opposed to who's been elected there. And Sylvester Atkinson came up just a bit short, in 7th place behind the others. So
Sylvester was the incumbent, I believe, too.
Sylvester Atkinson was an incumbent councillor. Okay, and Gail Smith acclaimed mayor, but other incumbent turning. There is an early theme here. That might be it. But the other 6 people who are running for council are now going to be members of the council whenever they're sworn in.
All right, and you were talking about the lay of the land in Middleton and the acclaimed mayor there, who is a black woman, the first woman and the first black person to be to lead the town of Middleton as well. So a couple of areas where that is a change that we're seeing in Nova Scotia.
Definitely already, yeah.
Steve, you have some results too.
Yeah, we're getting some early results in from the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, not just the mayoralty race. We're actually getting results earlier than we had anticipated originally from the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. So some things are starting to shape up, including the district I just mentioned, District 3, where Blue Marshall is trying to get back in as a Mi'kmaq representative for Ascazone. He was defeated last time, has been a repeat candidate in the past. We're going to get to that in a second, but new numbers for the mayoral race, and things are remaining the same. So the top four are remaining the same. Cecil Clark is actually pulling ahead, as we had guessed he might, as some of the paper ballots come in. So still with 35% of the popular vote, Cecil Clark now has 8,100 votes. Following behind that, about 2,100 votes behind, is Joe Ward coming up and taking the second place spot so far this evening. This is of 18 of 131 polls reported. Rankin McSween, third with 5,000 and change, and James Edwards, the current deputy mayor and the current councillor for his first term in District 8, with 2,800 results. After that, in descending order, it's Archie McKinnon, Carla George, Donnie Bassich, Kevin McCackern, and Vince Hall. By the way, Portia, if you've ever been in Sydney in times past and anyone offered you Fuzzy's Fries, it's because of Donnie Bassich. He's the founder of Fuzzy's Fries, and he would never give you ketchup. It's part of his thing. Would you like me to go?
He's not a malt vinegar man, is he?
You're allowed vinegar, but never ketchup. I actually asked him about that while we were warming up in the debate. He said it was tradition.
Must be a UK thing.
Yeah, but he'll be crying over his fries tonight because he's not in contention tonight for the mayoralty of the CBRM. I have some district councils. Do you want that, or do you need to move on?
District councils, maybe we can come back to that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we have some CBRM district results.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. You're
Okay.
listening to our CBC Radio Municipal Election Special. I'm Portia Clark, alongside Steve Sutherland in Cape Breton, Haley Ryan, and Sandy Smith at our CBC Halifax studios. You're tuning in on CBC Radio, on our CBC Listen app, or you may be watching us on our CBC Nova Scotia website. We're streaming as well on our CBC Nova Scotia YouTube page and CBC Gem. We haven't talked a lot yet about the race for mayor in HRM, but it's also been a bit of a wild ride here. We have Selena Alders reporting with Way Mason at his party pad, his celebration gathering in Halifax. Hi, Selena.
Hi, Portia. How are you tonight?
Doing well. It's been interesting so far. I don't know if Way has shown up there or he's following the usual protocol of waiting till the numbers are a little more definite.
Well, he did come down to say hello to some of his volunteers, but he is back upstairs, I believe, and is going to wait until we have some more definite results there, yeah.
Okay, and what is the mood in the room at this point? With we haven't reported on any Halifax results at this point, so it's all up in the air.
Yeah, so we are down at the Marriott Courtyard Hotel in downtown Halifax, and this is actually in District 7 where Way Mason has been a longtime councillor, the Halifax South Downtown District. There's probably about 24 people or so, maybe a few more. Now they're kind of starting to trickle in as we get closer to having some answers this evening. But there's friends, family members, and certainly some volunteers and people who have been working on his campaign. And actually, they have our program streaming live up on the TV, so you can say hello to all the folks in the room supporting Way Mason this evening.
I'm glad to hear they're on quality broadcasting.
Exactly. Yeah, so as I mentioned, Way Mason, he's a longtime councillor, and he's represented District 7 for about 12 years now. And in years past, he said that he would consider running for mayor, but never against Mayor Mike Savage. So when Savage decided and announced back in February that he would not be reoffering, Mason seemed like the obvious next in line. Of course, he announced his candidacy in June, whereas one of his top opponents, Andy Fillmore, couldn't officially enter the race until September when he resigned as a federal MP. The campaign slogan for Mason has been Mayor Day One. And, you know, what he's getting at here is he has years of experience in municipal politics, and he thinks that this would really allow him to hit the ground running if elected. And he's got a very detailed campaign platform that we can get into as well if you'd like, Portia.
I'd love to hear some of the key points. Is this mainly I'm going to keep doing what I have been doing successfully, trying to manage some of the growth in Halifax or all of the growth since we have been growing so rapidly here, stay the course kind of a platform, Selena?
I mean, I think so, Portia. I think he's proud of the things that he's been able to accomplish as councillor, and he's pretty in line with Mayor Mike Savage. They have a lot of similar takes on issues, and his platform really does stress the importance of adapting for this rapid growth that we know we're all seeing in HRM. So housing is a big one, and he really wants to focus on cutting that red tape when it comes to getting more housing and quickly. And another big one is transit. He knows that our system right now might not necessarily be working the way it should. He has a whole page on his platform dedicated to what he's calling affordable, citizen-centered transportation. And of course, he's an urban councillor, so it's no surprise that this issue is important to him. One thing that he's pledged is to support a 24/7 transit service, which obviously would be a big deal here in HRM.
Yeah, and it's fair to say, there's not always a lot of fireworks in municipal politics, but there has been in this mayoral race, particularly between Way Mason and Andy Fillmore.
Absolutely. Way Mason certainly sees Andy Fillmore as his top opponent, and that's been obvious throughout his campaign. We've been getting news releases, and nearly every single one of them has been focused on fact-checking, critiquing, making some sort of comment or critique at Fillmore. And, I'd imagine, if I could put myself in Mason's mind here, that he sees him as his top opponent because, let's face it, Andy Fillmore does have that name recognition with his years as a federal MP. So, he's been fact-checking Andy Fillmore throughout the campaign. And one line in a recent news release that really stood out to me from Way Mason was, quote, "I know people want a mayor who knows how HRM works, not someone who came back to the HRM because their time in Ottawa was up." So Mason didn't shy away from saying how he really feels there.
That does have a pointy end on it. Selena, we'll see how effective that has been for Way Mason in distancing himself from Andy Fillmore in this race. Thanks for this, Selena.
Thanks, Portia. Talk to you later.
That's Selena is at Alders. She's at the campaign headquarters, or the party pad, as we've been calling it, of Way Mason in downtown Halifax. Sandy has some results from, a little further out in rural Nova Scotia and Annapolis.
Yeah, but before we get to Annapolis, I'd like to detour Annapolis via Lunenburg, because we have final results from Lunenburg as well. And this goes against the trend of incumbents being in trouble, with Jamie Myra being re-elected as the mayor in Lunenburg, and former Mayor Rachel Bailey now returning to the municipal council as a councillor. So, and the voter turnout that was so high there before the polls closed today did reach 66%. So 2/3 of Lunenburgers were out to vote. Now, over in Annapolis Royal, everybody was going to be new because there were no incumbents running for the council. Amory Boyer is the mayor, the former CAO, will be the mayor, and the four new councillors, if we care to know them: Sybil Skinner-Robertson, Heather Sadowski, A.D. McDonald, and Lynn Myers. So those are the results from both Annapolis Royal and Lunenburg, and one going against the no incumbents please trend of the evening that had been established early on.
Right, and Amory Boyer was trying to fend off and successfully has fought off a challenge from another former mayor. So we'll stay as Mayor-elect Boyer. Just going back to Lunenburg, there were some interesting dynamics in this race, Haley. The person who was mainly taking on Myra was new to politics.
Jesse Ward.
Was a journalist, I understand, and
correct.
Very closely followed council to the point that they wanted to get involved themselves, but it has not been successful in this case. But sounds like Matt did a fairly thorough campaign based on looking at his website.
Yeah. Jesse Ward, he started the Barnacle newspaper and website down in Lunenburg, and so they cover Lunenburg County. And yeah, he really took on Mayor Myra on a few issues throughout the campaign. Town of Lunenburg, both this and Annapolis Royal, completely new councils. So there has been a lot of turnover in Lunenburg. there was a little bit of animosity and some criticism of that council over, the Blockhouse Hill decision. There's a large development that's proposed on the backside of Lunenburg that has caused a lot of people on both sides. So
it may, because it might block view of that iconic harbor, maybe jeopardize the UNESCO heritage designation, or
yeah. As far as the idea that's proposed wouldn't block any views, but you're right. People are a little bit concerned about the UNESCO. The staff have been clear that they've talked to UNESCO, and that won't be a factor. But there's still, it's more common land. The people there are just don't feel like that's a good use of space.
It sounds like people there maybe wanted to give Jamie Myra more of a chance. He hasn't been mayor for very long. He took over from, I believe it was Matt Risser when he suddenly resigned in 2023.
Yeah, he's only been in there for a few months, really. So it's been less than a year since he's had that mayor's role. He was a councillor in the past, so Mayor Myra does have experience around the council chamber, and he's a lifelong Lunenburger. So that goes a long way in the South Shore for sure. He has a business in town, and he's very well known. So that it would be hard to unseat him at this point, I would think, and true to form, that has happened. Yeah,
it sounds like he's earned himself 4 more years, Haley. Steve, you have some other results for up in Cape Breton?
Yeah, we have some advanced polls reporting here, Portia. So I'm going to work my way through the districts that are being challenged because we do have some acclamations. We're going to start out with District 3, which we talked about earlier. This is where Blue Marshall of Escazone is trying to get back in. He's been in and out there before when he rallies support, and there isn't a strong enough support for any alternative candidates. He's basically guaranteed in because his community is the largest Mi'kmaq community east of Montreal, and they've often rallied behind him in the past. Here's what's interesting, though. In District 3, Michael Vickers is a challenger, actually lives in the Pier, and here's a little background. He didn't want to run against his uncle by marriage, Lorne Green, so instead he ran in District 3 and ended up running against his cousin, his second cousin, who's another vicar. So we've been calling them the 2 vicars of District 3.
Can't escape family in Cape Breton, hey?
Isn't that it? But you know what's interesting? Michael Vickers is now in the lead with 455 votes. Second is Blue Marshall. So Michael Vickers has 35% of the vote. Blue Marshall, 28% of the vote, and followed there by Glenn Morant, putting in a solid showing. He's a repeat candidate in this riding. And then Tom Vickers, the second cousin, at the end there. In District 5, not a surprise, Eldon McDonald way out in front of newcomer Bennett McIntyre, age 20. He's probably going to have to get a little bit more running experience under his belt before he poses a challenge to Eldon McDonald. This is a pretty influential district in District 5. It's downtown, used to be represented by former Cabinet Minister, current MLA Derek Mumbercat, and Eldon McDonald in a solid lead there with 1,100 votes versus 530 for young Bennett. In District 7, in District 8, we have Derek Kennedy with 41% of the vote, former federal candidate against Roger Cuzner in the past for the Conservatives, and a young Stephen McNeil who's run a bunch of times with 890 votes, followed by Sean Lesnick. So that's a real neck-and-neck race there with Derek Kennedy and Stephen McNeil.
Well, you just maybe want to jump in with the big news about the mayor of CBRM.
Yes, the CBC decision deck, this just in, is projecting your new mayor of the Cape Breton Regional Municipality is Cecil Clark.
Just 40 minutes after the close of the polls. Interesting to see, given what you were saying about the advanced vote and then the in-person votes.
Yeah, he has pulled out ahead, Portia. Cecil Clark now with 9,500 votes, 52 of 131 polls reported. We feel it's safe to project that Cecil Clark is going back to the mayor's chair in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. So we'll be chasing a conversation with him throughout the course of the night tonight. A solid showing with Joe Ward with 6,900 votes, but Cecil pulling ahead with 95. Third and fourth there, Rankin McSween. This may be his last run at the chair. Who knows? He's retired and has given it 3 shots now. James Edwards had big hopes in the beginning, ran a campaign all over the CBRM, but right now standing fourth with 52 of 131 polls reporting and 3,300 votes. I'll just note here too, Portia, that coming in fifth at this point is Archie McKinnon, who calls himself the People's Champ, wants more equalization money for Cape Breton Island. But it's worth noting that when he ran federally, he had the 3rd highest vote total of any independent candidate in Canada behind Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott. So CBC is projecting a win for Cecil Clark right now. Do you want me to go through the other districts in the CBRM we didn't get to?
Sure. I was also curious about what might be happening in Port Hawkesbury, given that the mayor there is in a close race as well, or if it's as not close as the race seems to have been in CBRM.
Yep,
Maybe
Portia,
that's
I
different.
believe we have a winner in Port Hawkesbury. So why don't we go to Port Hawkesbury and then we'll get back to the CBRM results. I know people will be eager to hear about their districts in the CBRM that they haven't heard about yet. But we do have another winner in Port Hawkesbury, and our municipal affairs correspondent in the Strait is Adam Cook.
Oh, sorry.
And is he there? Adam, are you there?
Check 1 2 test 1 2.
No, this is the real deal.
Hey there. So do we have... Is this Adam or is this Brenda?
So it's Brenda but I can
Oh,
give
yeah.
Adam. I can give
No.
give Adam back his gear.
No problem. This is the fun of live radio. So we're discovering...
Here I am.
Yeah, we're discovering live on air, Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, that you're back for a third term as Mayor of Port
I am.
Hawkesbury. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Like, I just want to say thank you first and foremost to all of my supporters who cast a vote, who led to tonight's success. I want to thank Team Brenda, every single person who rolled up their sleeves to help in any and all ways during the campaign. I want to thank my family, because my family really have shared me these past 12 years with the citizens of the town of Port Hawkesbury. Certainly I wouldn't be able to do that without their support. Really proud to once again serve as mayor for the town of Port Hawkesbury.
You know, it's interesting. So we did roundtables, as you know, with you and with every other challenger in every district in Cape Breton Island. A lot of people talked about taxes, but one thing that every candidate in Port Hawkesbury talked about was growth.
Absolutely. We are definitely seeing signs of growth all around the town, from new housing developments, new businesses who have recently opened or opened in the most recent past, but also all kinds of businesses on the horizon that plan to open in the next 6 to 12 months. It's a really exciting time to be a newly elected mayor for a third term in Port Hawkesbury, because we are going to be looking at a whole different kind of set of issues and opportunities around growth, and isn't that wonderful?
Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, congratulations, and I have no doubt that we will be talking again.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, who is now and again the third term mayor of Port Hawkesbury. Here with CBC all across Nova Scotia. I'm Steve Sutherland in Sydney as part of our election night coverage. And before we go back to Portia and Halifax, we're just going to finish running through a couple more districts in the CBRM. In District 9, Dave McKeegan, challenger against incumbent Ken Tracy, and challenger Kyron Coombs is in the lead with 963 votes versus 790 for Ken Tracy and 161 for Kyron Coombs. In District 10, interesting, a solid pull ahead for Paul Nikituk at 76% of the popular vote, with 3 of 11 polls reporting, but a lot of votes in, 1,500 and change votes for Paul Nikituk against William Martin and Matthew Boyd, where Darren Brookschwager was representing that district since the time of Noah. Darren O'Quinn in District 11 is the incumbent. He's got 65% of the vote to Louis Piavasan, and it looks like we might not have to worry whether Louis Piavasan was eligible to run or not, because so far Darren O'Quinn has a solid lead there. And in District 12, it is a neck-and-neck race between Kim Shepard and incumbent Lauren Green, where they have 959 votes to 886 votes, respectively. Portia.
Thanks, Steve. Well, that's certainly big news on the mayoral front out of the CBRM in the last 5 minutes or so. We have some more results from the mainland, also in the mayor's chair. In one case, what I would call an upset.
Yeah, let's go to the Annapolis Valley. We'll look at Wolfville first, and then we'll go not too far down the road to Kentville. But in Wolfville, there will be a new mayor, and it really wasn't that close. The incumbent, Wendy Donovan, has lost to Jody McKay. The vote margin, not quite 2-1, so slightly more than 1,200 votes for Jody McKay, slightly more than 600 for Wendy Donovan, and then on the among the councillors, I believe it's 4 incumbents that will be returning. If we look at Kentville, there was a 3-way race with 2 councillors vying for the open mayor's chair after the incumbent decided not to reoffer. Andrew Zebian is the winner, taking slightly more than 1,000 votes. The other incumbent was Paula Huntley. She was third. And in the middle was Brent Platt, who was the third person running for mayor, about 300 votes back of Zebian. So we have new mayors in the neighboring towns of Kentville and Wolfville, and one of them, I think, we could say, a bit of an upset there in Wolfville to have a new mayor and with a margin that big. Now, if I can also find them, we had some results from Annapolis County I was looking to pass on a little earlier that have kind of gone by the wayside, but I'll try and get them up here. Portia, for the Annapolis County Council, there was only one district where the person was acclaimed, and I can give you a rundown of the council reps if we'd like, or do we have another community to move on to?
Well, I just wanted to focus in a little bit on
Sure.
the results out of Wolfville with Jody McKay beating Wendy Donovan. Jody McKay she's a current counselor. She was counselor last term, right? I was looking at her website. I noticed she did have an endorsement from the previous mayor some years back, Jeff Cantwell. So maybe that may have helped her in some way. What was the sort of dynamic in that race between Wendy Donovan, who'd been representing Wolfville for some time, and a new counselor?
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised to see that because Mayor Donovan has been very engaged. Wolfville, there's been, looking at new affordable housing projects and different developments there. And, she's kind of bridged, always talks about the university and kind of bridging the university community and kind of getting more housing for students there and being very, kind of connected and putting housing as the top of her priority list. But when it comes to, this race, it's just interesting to see actually, an incumbent mayor is hard to beat. So there must have been something that Jody, was offering that really set it over the edge there.
A little maybe unexpected drama there. Drama less expected perhaps in the town of Kentville, which has had a troubled history. Its previous mayor may have felt, I think she said she felt attacked at some points by her council, and one of those councillors who was involved in some of that to and fro is now going to become the new mayor. This is Andrew Zebian.
Yes, Andrew Zebian. Yeah, so to see him take the jump from council seat to mayor seat, he was the councillor that it certainly did clash the most with outgoing mayor Sandra Snow. They did file code of conduct complaints against each other multiple times. There was a few councils that for council meetings for people in Kentville, this is not probably a surprise. They saw, yelling. There was at one point, Mayor Snow did ask Councillor Zebian to leave. She has admonished him for what she said was his conduct was unbecoming. But he has always maintained that he was trying to be more transparent and, get people in Kentville more information. But he's very engaged online, and he, is a business owner in town. So he does have quite a lot of name recognition and, I'd say some energy behind that campaign.
All right, so a new mayor for the town of Kentville and for Wolfville as well. And Sandy, you have further results. They're starting to come in, and the floodgates may have opened.
We'll still keep Annapolis County on hold, but we have our first information dump from the Halifax Regional Municipality, and I won't get into the council seats, but we can look at the mayoralty race. And these just updated after I opened my microphone and started to speak. The leader so far in the race to be mayor in Halifax is Andy Fillmore. He's polling at slightly more than 42% of the votes. In second place is Way Mason, but he is far back. He's at 30%, not quite 31%. Pam Lovelace is in third place with about 12.8% of the votes. And then jostling in at fourth and fifth, Jim Hoskins in fourth, Darrell Johnson in fifth right now. But it appears to be Andy Fillmore so far polling at about 42% of the votes with a fairly healthy lead over Way Mason. And we'll just have to see how that might change as the mix of paper ballots and the electronic come together here over the next little while.
Yeah, absolutely. Still many, many votes to come. And I suppose this is playing out. It's somewhat reflective of the polls that we saw. Haley, going into tonight, the final results.
Yeah, we did see in the last poll, which was in early October, but, Andy Fillmore was leading in that poll. And there were a lot of people undecided, but it was him in the lead and then Way Mason behind him. So this is what, the polls did reflect. And so far, this is fitting. He's got the name recognition as the former MP. So, yeah.
All right. One of those instances in which the polls may bear out. They take a lot of criticism.
If I may, a detail I should have added earlier, I just missed it. This is with 10 of 427 tables reporting. So it is very early, but the trend is established. It has since updated a little bit. The actual numbers of votes have changed, but the margin is more or less unchanged. Fillmore at 42%, Mason at 30%.
All right. We have had an early result out of the CBRM, but we'll be waiting a while for HRM to choose its mayor. Well, in Truro, the race for mayor has already been decided. Kathy Hinton was acclaimed there, making her the first woman to become mayor of Truro. She's the first mayor in close to 30 years who isn't Bill Mills. Mr. Mills decided to retire from the top job this year, and he's on the line with us now. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Portia. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you feeling hearing all of these results coming in, and you're sort of not part of the fray this time?
Well, I still have that same feeling I did each election, so I don't know, just anticipating some of the results, and it's still fun, even though I'm not in the running this time around. But it's always fun.
Yeah, you never know how the races are going to turn out or whether your gut instincts will bear out, but they have done for you for the last, close to 30 years, as I say, 27 years in the mayor's job. You became mayor in 1997. Before that, were a councillor. What do you remember about that time when you were just starting out, as many of these new mayors will be as of, I suppose, Monday?
Well, I had 10 years experience on council in Truro and 1 year in Amherst years ago, 79, 80. And then deputy mayor 4 years before I became mayor. So, I got to give a lot of credit to former Mayor Doug Carter, who assured me that, things will be fine and take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
And, I guess it's a lot how you think. And I remember watching the mayor do his thing, and I kept thinking to myself, where does he get all this information? And then I thought, well, wait a minute, he's been doing this 18 years or so, and I've just started. So I said, cut yourself some slack and maybe keep your mouth shut and listen twice as much. So that kind of worked for me.
Yeah, these folks have got some years to catch up as well. Has the job of mayor changed over the years that you were in the seat?
Yeah, oh yeah. It just like everything in the province, right across the country for that matter, it's changed a lot because when I started as mayor, I don't even remember if we had a cell phone, and then things started to progress. We had the internet come on stream, then we had cell phones, and the means of being in touch with constituents increased substantially, and away it went. And so you talk about being closest to the public. Well, we certainly were, and there were good comments, there were bad comments, there's confusion, issues in Colchester County. Some people call you because they don't know where the lines are drawn, and then there's the provincial issues, and I have to point them to the MLA, and then of course always the federal, and point them to the MP. So, but all in all, I think social media has probably been the most significant change over the last 2 terms.
Well, and here we are, e-voting. I mean, things have changed a lot in that way, almost instant results. I gather they've retired the chain of office at the end of your tenure, and Mayor Hinton's going to get a new chain. Yeah,
that's right. And the medallion that's on the chain of office, they took it and attached it to a nice plaque. So that's kind of nice. I feel almost like I'm in the NHL, or I'll call it the Municipal Hockey League. And I've got that thing retired, and so it's sitting on my wall at home. And it's quite nice. And I've got 11 grandkids, 10 and 1 on the way. So I'm writing little letters to them now, and on mayor letterhead, so that I can mail it to them officially from the mayor while I'm still mayor.
So you personally contributed to the growth of the town, fair to say?
Well, that's what the mayor, the former mayor said. Yep, we are happy to have more people in town, but we don't expect them all from you guys. So I said, just trying to help.
Yeah, I know you talked about growing into the job and learning as you go, and you'll be fine. Is that your word of advice for Mayor Hinton as she takes over?
Well, she says she's been on council for 8 years, and Kathy works very hard. And she, before she was in municipal government, she and some other citizens, they started the East End Residents Association, and so they were pretty keen on issues around the town, and particularly cleaning up certain areas and so on. So she was pretty engaged, and so she's going to do fine, and we'll just take it one step at a time. And she's been deputy mayor the last year, so I think I can say the same thing to her that Mayor Carter said to me. She'll be fine.
She'll be fine. And that's the words you need to hear sometimes when you're taking on a new job, even if you've been training for it for a while. Mr. Mills, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'll let you get back to the results.
Well, thank you very much. And we only have one change in Truro on council. I don't know if you know that yet.
One change?
One change. Debbie Pryor has been elected in Ward 3, and all the other councillors, Wayne Talbot and Jim Fleming, Allison Graham, and Ian McGrath, and Bill Thomas have all been returned. They are incumbents.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate getting those results directly from you, Mayor Mills. You're helping Sandy Smith out here on our
eating
results
your lunch,
desk.
Sandy.
Yeah.
No charge. My former broadcasting light just had to break through tonight. So
That's right. You're a former broadcaster. Well, we have you live on location, and we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
We'll put Mayor Mills on retainer now that he's free.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks so much. You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
We do have some other results coming in outside of Truro as well. I'll head over to you, Sandy, for those.
Yeah, I'll give you two updates. The CBC's decision desk making decisions about two of the races for the Halifax Regional Council. Kathy Deagle-Gammon to be re-elected in District 1, and Tony Mancini is our projection for District 6. He will be returning an incumbent entering his third term, so years 8 through 12 coming up for him. And a quick update on the mayoralty race. We're now up to 20 of 427 tables reporting. The margins only growing slightly for Andy Fillmore. He's polling now north of 44%, and Way Mason has dipped back to about 27%. So it's Fillmore, Mason, and then a distant third is Pam Lovelace.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Sandy. I'm Portia Clark, alongside Haley Ryan, Sandy Smith, and Steve Sutherland. You're listening to a CBC Radio Municipal Election Special on your radio. Maybe your Listen app, or maybe you're joining us on many of our streaming platforms tonight. Well, let's head to Andy Fillmore's headquarters here in Halifax. Gareth Hampshire is there. Hi, Gareth.
Hi, Portia.
Well, you heard the numbers there that Sandy just gave out, these early results with Andy Fillmore capturing 44% of the vote so far and a comfortable lead over his nearest challenger, Way Mason, at 27%. The room is buzzing on that news, I would imagine.
Yeah, you can see behind me there are screens where the vote projections are coming in, and when they popped up and that 45% mark was shown initially, big cheers in the room. Lots of yellow and blue, Andy Fillmore's campaign colors. Meet the moment has been his theme in this campaign, and he's tried to place himself as the candidate that can manage Halifax's growth. There's no incumbent mayor, of course, as we've been talking about. It's a long time that Mike Savage has been mayor, and in that time, looking from 2012 to now, the population's grown by about 100,000 people, and that's what he's really keyed in on, is the challenges that has really brought to Halifax and how to go about fixing them. And that's what his platform is based around. He's talked about things like a tax freeze, dealing with encampments by freezing those as well. Trying to speed up affordable housing by speeding up approvals and incentives for contractors. All these kinds of things have been front and center for him. And as you can see, there's lots of people here. He's got a machine around him. I mean, he's won 3 federal campaigns, so he knows, I mean, he's been in the trenches a lot. And he's had a big social media campaign. He's been on Facebook, lots of ads. If you click on his campaign, you'll see lots of videos on there with a number of these explainers about how he feels on the platform. So, yeah, I think people here are feeling pretty good. So there's a long way to go, but it's a pretty good start for him so far.
Yeah, was there any sense or could you notice any distancing in Andy Fillmore's campaign from his federal Liberal ties or his work as an MP? I mean, a lot of the focus seemed to be around his history as an urban planner and the candidate who could take charge of Halifax's growth at this stage and do something, for example, about the encampment situations. He took quite a strong stance on that. But as far as his Liberal ties, being a federal Liberal, was that maybe not as noticeable in his campaign, in case perhaps as a sort of cautionary sort of strategy?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If you go through Andy Fillmore's website, Justin Trudeau is not mentioned on that anywhere. Perhaps keying into the fact that the Prime Minister's going through a bit of a tough spell. It doesn't appear to be very popular. And so, in fact, there's not even very much mention of his work as an MP. on his campaign platform. A lot of it, as you mentioned there, is about his history as an urban planner, the role he played in helping create the Halifax Library downtown, those sorts of things, about his vision for the growth of Halifax, but not so much about what stage. Although, I mean, he's talked a lot about how he's always tried to work collaboratively, how he's had a lot of relationships with other levels of government. So that's been there. But yeah, I think definitely that's the case. He's certainly not really been positioning himself as a Liberal MP. It's more about what he's been doing for Halifax over the years.
Well, you can certainly excitement in the lion's head. Gareth, we'll come back to you, I'm sure, as we get a little further into the night. But so far, it looks like a fairly comfortable lead for Andy Fillmore at taking 44% of the vote at this stage. Steve's in Cape Breton, where he's watching a few more of those CBRM ridings. Mayor's been decided, but there's still some suspense there, Steve.
Hey, yeah, so just to reconnect for people who are just tuning in on this exciting Saturday night where you're looking for Island Echoes, but you're getting your election coverage instead. We'll get back to the Fiddles with Celtic Colours finale tonight at Center 200. But yes, we are projecting a win for Cecil Clark in the CBRM. The CBC is also projecting that Amanda McDougall is your returning councillor in CBRM District 5. Perhaps not a surprise against young newcomer Bennett McIntyre. Good showing for that young 20-year-old. Would be nice to see him running in the future. In the CBRM for New Waterford and surrounding areas, it's Darren O'Quinn winning over Louis Piavason. People watching this one because Louis actually failed to take a leave from the municipality. He works with Public Works. When he declared his candidacy, it didn't happen until a couple of weeks later. So there was a question as to whether or not he was actually eligible to run. That question is now moot because CBC's decision desk is projecting a win for Darren O'Quinn for the New Waterford area in CBRM District 11. Portia, as mentioned, we also have a final decision for the mayor of Port Hawkesbury, Brenda Chisholm-Beaton. We spoke with her earlier. She sounded pretty pleased as punch to be re-elected mayor for her third term. Also for councillor, where it's unique in Cape Breton that Port Hawkesbury is elected at large, Portia, it is not representing districts. So you have a bunch of people run and the top four get in. So the winning councillors for councillor in Port Hawkesbury are Ian Langley, Todd Barrett, Paula Hart, and Blaine McQuarrie. We also have final results for Victoria County, and if you listen till the end, we have an interesting situation here. So here are your winners for the final vote in Victoria County. We have 3 new councillors at least, and most likely we'll have 4. I'll tell you why that's a most likely in just a second. So in Victoria County District 1 for Iona and Little Narrows, Donna Matheson-Lafort wins with 215 votes. Next up, Corey McLean at 117. Mary Louise Bernard, who is a former chief of Wagmacook, running there, 56. And finally, Vera Piero, who is also a Mi'kmaq person from Wagmacook, coming in fourth with 43. In Victoria County District 2, returning councillor Perla McLeod, who when she was first elected a couple of terms ago was the first female in a generation on council, wins 274 votes versus former CEO who came out of retirement to challenge her, Sandy Hudson at 159, and perennial candidate Norman Matheson, who has come in last the 5 times he's run before, can make it a 6er with 35 votes. In Victoria County District 3, it's Jess Kerr winning over Gary Crowder and Donald Green. Another newcomer, a greenhorn, Rosella Bourne in Victoria 4 against Steph McLeod, Rosella Bourne winning in the Bedeque Bay to St. Anne's Bay area. Those are 2 really interesting candidates. I enjoyed their conversation during our candidates roundtable, so it's too bad they couldn't run in different districts. Phaedra Patterson, perhaps not a surprise, long-term councillor for Victoria 5. At least he got back in having to be challenged this time. He was acclaimed a few times before that. Jackie Organ back in against Johnny Buchanan, who is a former councillor in another district in Victoria 7. And this is the interesting little capper in the end. This doesn't happen a lot, but it happened today. 2 new people running. Again, this is a district where there's a really interesting array of people running, including young fellow Ricky Buchanan, who moved home after the last little while to come back to Cape Breton, decided to get involved. Patterson Gray Rochon, who came to operate the Markland Resort, which is owned by his family. And then you have 2 longtime community organizers, Wanda Hennick and Amy McKinnon at the Bay St. Lawrence Community Center. And Portia, this one's a tie. So that's going to be interesting to see how that falls out. So one way or the other, we'll have a new councillor there. But Wanda Hennick and Amy McKinnon in Victoria County District 8 tied at 145 votes apiece. Somebody should have got one more cousin to come out.
Work on it tonight.
Yeah, there you go. So that's your Victoria County final council. We have at least 3 new, and we'll find out which the 4th new councillor will be for Victoria County.
All right. Wow, a tie, the suspense. I have to say things were a little less suspenseful in Mulgrave this election. No one got the chance to vote there. Most towns and villages are still waiting to hear who their new mayor or warden or councillors will be. But in Mulgrave, the entire town council, including the mayor, was acclaimed. That means Mayor Ron Chisholm has some free time tonight to talk to us, and he's on the line. Mayor Chisholm, thanks for taking our call.
Oh, great. Great to talk to you.
You too. I guess it's a pretty calm election night for you compared to some in the past.
All mine. This is the first time I've ever been acclaimed, and kind of disappointed. I said, I usually like to sit there and do the vote count and see how you made out. But no, not tonight.
Nobody stood up against you. So there was no relief there at not having to mount a campaign and come up with a platform and all of that?
No, I just enjoy going out and talk to the people. But of course, I do that on a daily basis anyway. But no, I was just surprised that basically we do have a council. We had a Facebook page that was brought up by a person here in town that kind of bashed and trashed myself and our council for the last 9 months. Walked into him today, and he can't even put his eyes on me. He's more or less, he's good on a keyboard, but he's not so good to talk to anybody in the public. So it's sad that Facebook and the media is great. Social media is great in certain cases, but it can be a weapon in the wrong hands. And unfortunately, this is the way it is. And the worst part is he's used the town's name, which has given us a black eye.
And is probably been pretty stressful, being attacked in that way. Of course, Mulgrave, not a lot of places to hide, so I guess it's inevitable you might run into him in person there.
He calls me Waving Ronnie, and I just laugh. I see him driving down the street, I'll wave to him, big smile on my face, and, kill him with kindness is what I say.
I guess,
thick skin you got to have. And anybody getting into, municipal politics, and I'm sure it's 10 times worse in provincial and it's 100 times worse in federal. But, the biggest thing is thick skin. And, if you don't have the passion for the people in the town, I mean, why would you do it? And that's the biggest part that myself, that's why I do it. Is I love the people in this town. I love the town. I mean, I've lived here for 30 plus years. It's you got to have passion, and I don't know what this guy has, but
yeah, and it's a small town. There's 630 people there, as you say. Waving Ronnie might be this person's insult for you, but you're always walking around and talking to people. Do you just do you help people on the spot? I heard a story about you helping someone move their mattress, the drop of a hat.
Yep, I do, and there's times I'm. All summer, I'm a big seafood lover. As a matter of fact, tonight I had a big feed of lobster, and I'll buy lobster pretty much every weekend, and eat it pretty much every day. But there's a few residents out here that will acclaim that. I've often called them down and say, "Here, you want some? Have some.
Come on over."
Yeah, no, and you're right. I did go up, and this woman asked me to move a bed at her friend's place. When I walked in the house, the woman said, "You're not the mayor, are you?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "And you come up here to move that bed?" I said, "Listen, this is what we do. It's a small town, and you do what you do. There's people out there, and I mean, most of the week I've been fighting a coyote problem in the town, and had a couple almost attack me myself, and 2 days in a row. So
well, don't throw those lobster shells out the back door.
No. They go in the firebox. Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, I mean, you're taking on a new term. You stood up to do this. What do you want to do in the next 4 years for Mulgrave? What are its challenges?
Well, we have many challenges. We've got a road out here that we own. It's 3 kilometers, but it's 3 lanes. It's Series 100 highway. Heavy truck traffic. There's not a possibility that the town of Mulgrave is going to be able to do this. I've been fighting with the government for, I've been on council for 11 years. All of us have been fighting back and forth to, get the government to take this highway back. It's probably worth in the vicinity of, $4 to $5 million to repave this, and that's not counting any infrastructure that has to be replaced as well.
And like I said, over the last number of years, we've got a lot of truck traffic heading to the wharf. We've got a couple of businesses in the industrial park that use a lot of truck traffic. Plus, there's pulp trucks. There's construction down the 344 as well. We get a sewer treatment plant that we have to get up and running, and it's going to be a big task for the next 4 years. And I look forward to my new council and with their new ideas. And like I said, I've talked to all of them, and I've said, that it's a big learning curve. I know when I started 11 years ago, I took the first year and just kind of sat back and absorbed a lot and take it from there and just keep progressing every year. I mean, you're never going to know everything in the first year. You got to basically just learn and take everything in for the next number of years, however long you're going to be.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're never going to get it all done in one mayoral term. So you've got yourself another one.
Yeah.
Maybe that road will get sorted in the next 4. Mayor Chisholm, a pleasure to talk to you today, and best of luck in your next term to you and your new council.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking our call. That's Ron Chisholm.
Not a problem. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's Ron Chisholm, the mayor of Mulgrave. You're listening to a CBC Municipal Election Special across Nova Scotia. I'm Portia Clark in our CBC Halifax studios alongside Haley Ryan and Sandy Smith with Steve Sutherland in our CBC Cape Breton studios. Steve.
Yeah, and we are projecting win in District 10. This is Darren Brookschwager's old district, Portia, so there hasn't been a new councillor there except for one brief time when Darren Brookschwager went away since Jesus was a child. So Paul Nikituk is the winner in District 10, according to our projection. A quick note, in Inverness County, you're going to have more of the same again because we had several acclamations in Inverness County, and all the incumbents got back in. Claude Poirier, Lynn Chisholm, Catherine Gillis, all in the final results for Inverness County. So your Inverness County Council remains the same. Thanks,
Steve. We have Luke Ettinger, who's watching what's happening in West Hants. He's with us now on the line. Luke, hello. Good morning. Afternoon, I should say.
Good evening, Portia.
There we go. It's the other side of the day. So there in West Hants, you have quite a tight 4-way race for mayor. Just tell us a little bit about who the incumbent is and who they are challenging for the mayor seat this time.
Yeah, for sure. Abraham Zabian, the incumbent, the first mayor of this regional municipality that was incorporated on April 1st, 2020. He was elected back in March 2020, ahead of that amalgamation of the rural parts of this municipality and the town of Windsor. He won quite handily with 65% of the vote the last time around, and he has sort of started to pull ahead of Jeff Hart, a councillor, and longtime area MLA Chuck Porter, and then a fourth candidate in this race, Kajeld Mitzvah Kanye-Steed, is trailing here tonight, Portia.
And he's probably the least politically adept, if I can put it that way. He's new on the political scene,
New on the political scene in terms of being seeking elected office. He's a lobbyist that works with all levels of government and really wanted to gather ideas from community during this campaign. Was kind of his goal to try and improve life here in West Hants.
And what are the main issues in that part of the province?
Well, if you take a step back to 2020, I heard it a couple times in the debate, COVID, fires, then floods, all, impacting this municipality. And particularly the flooding issue, of course, the loss of life in July 2023, but also just repeated flooding here in Windsor and in other population centers, a big issue for residents here.
Yeah, has there been any questioning of how the mayor and council have handled those issues around safety, around emergency alerts, for example, Luke?
Certainly some questioning of that and some action on part of council, but not to the satisfaction of all of those that are living through these repeat flood events with combined sewer outflow, particularly on Stanish Street here in Windsor. You certainly see a lot of signs for Hart and Porter as you drive around this municipality, perhaps a sign of discontent of the first 4 years of Zabian's leadership, but he's still showing strong as the results are coming in tonight.
I suppose an issue that the incoming mayor, whether the incumbent or one of the new contenders, we'll grapple with is the abattoir, which we've been covering a fair bit at CBC in terms of getting some money, federally, or figuring out how to handle that issue in the town of Windsor or nearby.
Yeah, and certainly, something that whether sitting on council like Hart and Porter, Hart and Zabian have, or Porter who has experience in provincial office, trying to lobby that past experience with residents to say, that they'll be able to convince the province on that issue.
Okay, well, it sounds like so far, Luke, maybe Zabian is not too terribly nervous, but we'll see how it goes from here. Thanks for this, Luke.
He looks quite comfortable in there, Portia.
All right, almost ready to celebrate, or nearly there.
Perhaps.
Thanks for this,
thank
Luke.
You.
That's Luke
Cheers.
Ettinger.
Bye-bye.
He's in West Hants there, covering that mayoral race. It is 20 minutes after 8 here, and we have some results out of the HRM race, Sandy.
Yes, we have the CBC decision desk projecting that Sam Austin will return to council. It'll be his third term as well in District 5. That's another one on the Dartmouth side of Halifax Harbour, so that's the latest projection from the Halifax election. And we have a couple of results with upsets of municipal leaders in districts outside either the CBRM or the Halifax region. And if I could, I'll briefly give you results, and I think Haley may want to have something to say about Amherst. We'll start there. Rob Small has defeated the incumbent David Cogan with also only two of the incumbents who are running for council returning to the Amherst Town Council, one of them being Information Mornings contact Hal Davidson.
Mm-hmm.
But then another upset in the municipal district of the municipality district of Lunenburg. Elspeth McLean Weil has defeated the incumbent Carolyn Bolivar-Getson, the former provincial cabinet minister.
Wow,
yes,
okay.
by a margin of 2,500.
Huh, wow.
So that one wasn't that close. So we have two incumbents going down in those latest districts to come in. We also have word from Queens County, where the incumbent did not reoffer, and Terry Doucette has won that mayoralty race. That was close, margin of only 45 votes, but those three have all come in the last short while, so I thought I'd pass those along. And as I say, two of the three definite upsets there with Lunenburg County and Amherst having new people in charge once the new councils take over.
Right. So let's talk about Amherst, first of all. Longtime Mayor David Cogan will not be returning to office there. What are some of the dynamics that might have been at play there, Haley?
Well, just looking at Rob Small's campaign, he had a great slogan. It was "Think big, vote small." So, as a former, and we were talking about this comfortable, with Cecil Clark and Kate Breton. Maybe people in Amherst were ready to have someone back that they felt comfortable with. For Rob Small, he was in the mayor's chair. He retired, back in 2016, and then Cogan's been in since then. But in his campaign, he really emphasized the things he'd done, and he'd done a lot. He was a mayor when they got a new wastewater plant, when they had a new recreational arena. There's a new police station. He obviously did a lot of building, and he really emphasized bringing some more tourism to Amherst, and emphasized how he felt he could, really help the town grow and take a step up. But it was surprising because Cogan has been quite public. He's been very active on the Chignecto Isthmus situation. He's been really pushing that and saying, hey, we folks in Amherst, this is a huge issue for us, trying to get the provincial and the federal government to make a difference there in that key area.
Yeah, he's been a big champion in a long-standing and quite bitter fight at that point. I suppose that will be passed on to the new mayor, the mayor-elect now, to add that to his list of things he'll be no doubt having to address in the next 4 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Haley, thanks so much. And also just going back to the upset with Elspeth McLean Weil winning over Carolyn Bolivar-Getson. Carolyn Bolivar-Getson has been very prominent in political circles and has been the mayor for some time there. So this would be considered, as Sandy said, an upset, of course. Elspeth McLean Weil is very community connected and quite well known, but all the same, taking down a bit of a political giant, fair to say?
I think so. I mean, Elspeth McLean Weil is a newcomer. She's a political newcomer. She's quite well known in Lunenburg County, I would say. Her family they've run businesses, Weil's Farm Market for folks in Lunenburg County driving through Weilville. That's a very popular market cafe.
Did you say Weilville? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. And that's the family. That's the Weil. So for Elspeth, I mean, yeah, I am surprised, but maybe she's been also very engaged and on the doorstep quite a lot. And she does have those community connections are really hard to, underestimate when it comes to it. And Carolyn Bolivar-Getson has been Though, like you said, long term, she's a consummate politician. She's also recently been the head of the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. So that's a pretty key role, and she's worked very well with other municipalities. So it is still, that name recognition is hard to beat. So for Elspeth McLean-Weil to do that, it's a big deal.
Well, the ranks of our community contacts on Information Morning are diminishing by the minute. But congratulations going out to Elspeth McLean. Oh, wow. Why don't we head back to Cape Breton, Steve?
Yeah, we have another projection from the CBC Decision Desk. The CBC Decision Desk is projecting in District 9, CBRM Glace Bay Reserve Mines. And this might go back to what Haley was saying about community contact and community responsiveness. Dave McKeegan is being projected as your winner in CBRM District 9. He currently does case management for federal MP Jaime Batiste. So has probably made a few contacts. First timer in politics, but have been around politics for quite a while. Decisive winner so far in our projection for CBRM 9.
Connections matter. It's 25 minutes after 8. Well, as we mentioned earlier, Stanley Tanny Jacklin has been elected mayor for the town of Shelburne, making history, and he's on the line with us. Hello, Mayor-elect Jacklin. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How are you feeling about what's unfolded here tonight?
I'm overwhelmed, miss, with what's happened this evening with the voting and me becoming the mayor of the town of Shelburne.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a bit almost surprising to hear that coming out of your own mouth.
I am surprised, miss. Yes.
What was it about your campaign, do you think, connected with people?
I think mostly what connected people is my integrity to be respectful to people and to listen and to bring people together under any circumstances, miss. So I think that was my number one attribute, and being able to listen.
Yeah. And what did you hear from people about what they want you to do in Shelburne or for them?
It was mostly housing, affordable housing. Next on the list, I would say, would be health and safety, of course, and business, looking after the present business and more business in the town of Shelburne.
Yeah,
as well as the deer. Yeah. There's a deer problem.
Oh, you've got a deer issue there too. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But it wasn't a plebiscite there this time on your ballot, was it? What to do about the deer?
No, there was no plebiscite.
Okay. Any ideas around that? Since people want you to do something about the deer, you're the mayor now, so this all falls into your lap.
Yes, ma'am. I think that has to be a discussion with the Department of Natural Resources because those creatures are wild animals. And it's something that is not normally on the agenda at a town meeting up until recent years, and it's something that need to be taken care of. And I need, and the town of Shelburne will need assistance on making those decisions.
Yeah, and maybe consulting with some of the other towns that are going through this as well. So the deer are eating people out of house and home there, but you mentioned housing and affordable housing. What kind of situation are some people in there?
Well, I think a lot of the younger people are living with their parents because of the fact of the matter that affordable housing is not obtainable at this time. And there are some people that don't have homes other than family members who are staying with friends.
Yeah. And do you have a special, sort of affinity for young people going through those kinds of situations, given your background in teaching and school administration, Mayor-elect?
Well, I know that people, students for sure, and others, of course, they need their own space in order to be comfortable and to relax, those sorts of things, and to have something that they can call their own or work towards something they can call their own.
Well, absolutely. So you wanted to see maybe young people stick around your town. You're leading by example. You are, as far as we know, the first Black mayor of Shelburne. How does that feel?
It feels pretty good. And I would say that I'm humbled by the fact of the matter that I had been voted in as mayor. And as I said, I was voted in on merit. And I'm willing to, and obviously going to go forward and do the best I possibly can for all the people of Shelburne.
Shelburne, a town with deep roots in African Nova Scotian history, one of the original settlements there. And of course, you've got the museum there as well. How does it feel to be in the position you're in there, as you say, on merit?
Well, the town of Shelburne was founded in 1783 with the Black Loyalists coming to Shelburne. And as you mentioned, we have the Black Loyalist Museum in Birchtown, Nova Scotia. So it's pretty exciting to be in a position, coming from my background, to be able to work in the town and do more for the town as the mayor of the town.
Well, you'll be moving into the mayor's office soon, which is no doubt going to feel very good. Mayor-elect Jacqueline, thanks for taking some time out of what must be a night of celebration for you. I appreciate you speaking with us here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Good night.
That's Mayor-elect Stanley, who goes by Tanny, Stanley Jacqueline, in the town of Shelburne, elected there tonight. It is 29 minutes after 8 now, and we are going to bring you an update on the situation in the Halifax region and the mayor election. We have Way Mason on the line, who is going to talk to us about what's been happening in his campaign and his results tonight. Way, good evening. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Portia. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, Way. How are you doing? I know we've been updating and following your numbers, and of course Andy Fillmore's as well. And at this point, I think you're trailing Andy Fillmore. How are you feeling about how that's looking at this point?
So I've seen in other elections people who gutted it out to the very, very end, but I just actually did my concession speech down here because really, as my campaign manager said, we'd have to win every single table for the rest of the election. Seems pretty unlikely. So I congratulate Andy Fillmore on his victory, and I thanked all my volunteers and supporters and people who donated to the campaign, both money and time. And we put up a good fight, and we had a nice showing, but we didn't make it to the top.
Yeah, and you did put up a good fight. Where do you think perhaps that either let you down, or how do you explain the results that we're seeing tonight?
Well, certainly the name recognition of being an MP is a big thing to overcome, and they were far more successful at getting significant fundraising than us, as shown by the advertising that has been on the internet and the signs for the last couple of weeks. So, we just weren't able to bridge over that name recognition in the face of that kind of advertising.
And do you think, you did trade some barbs with Andy Fillmore during the course of the campaign. Do you think that Andy Fillmore overpromised in his campaign?
The people have decided I'm going to take the high road on this, as they say. When they go low, we go high. And he is the mayor-elect, it looks like. And, I wish him all the best.
And how do you feel about what you have been able to accomplish in your time on council?
Oh, really good. We turned the city around. When Mike Savage and I got elected, the joke I've been making throughout the campaign is that the business center of gravity was moving to Moncton. Our kids were going to grow up in Alberta at Fort McMurray, and the population had dropped in 2011. And we're now an economic powerhouse. We're the envy of the country. That doesn't mean there aren't issues that need to be addressed. Certainly, with the population increase and the housing crisis, those are things that we need to work really hard on. But these problems are solvable, and I think that the success that came from the economic growth under Mayor Savage sets the city up well to address those concerns.
We're certainly on the cusp of more changes. Our municipal affairs reporter Haley Ryan has a question for you, Way.
Hi, Way.
Okay.
Just wondering, can you let us know what's next for you? Have you thought about that yet?
It's funny. They told me that you'd ask that question. The answer is what's next for me is to clean the house and do some laundry and update my LinkedIn. And there's no firm plans right now, but I'm sure that tomorrow will bring new opportunities.
Thanks for that.
Fair enough. Have you spoken directly with anybody in the other campaigns, or who have you heard from since you gave your concession speech?
We were unable to get a phone number to talk to them, didn't get any response. So, I'm sure I'll connect with them. And it's a small town. We'll connect with them in time.
Yeah, we know they're over there at the Lion's Head Tavern, but you may want to head elsewhere tonight.
Yeah, no, the hotel bar is right over there. So we're good in that regard. Thank you.
One more, Way.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets? Do you feel like you should have stayed as a councillor? In hindsight, it's hard, but...
Oh, no, I knew I wasn't going to run for council again. I actually, council campaigns are so small that the day after the last election, I was in my backyard cleaning my signs and taking them apart, and I decided to send them to be recycled the day after the last election instead of keeping them, because it seemed unlikely, very unlikely, that I would run for a fourth term.
Was there a reason for that?
I think it's important to have change on council. I think it's important to have new councillors, and for me, I knew I either wanted to do the mayor job if Mike didn't run again, or go do something else. So now I'll go do something else.
Thanks for this.
We'll wait to see what the something else is. Wei, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Great talking to you.
Take care. That's Wei Mason, who has conceded the mayoral race in HRM to whoever may win. And at this point, it looks like Andy Fillmore is on his way to doing that, at least as far as the votes are indicating at this point. I think the last time we checked in, he had 44% of the vote. Is it still in that range?
Very similar, 43.8, so just a smidge under 44. Wei Mason at 25 and change. Pam Lovelace in third, slightly, right, almost exactly between 15 and 16%. So not much change really since the polls, the numbers started coming in.
All right. Thanks, Andy. You're listening to the Municipal Election Special on CBC Radio. You may be watching us on streaming as well tonight. Let's head to Steve.
I think we can all understand the House getting a little disheveled in the course of a busy campaign. That goes for journalists and for politicians. Interesting that number 2 priority was to update his LinkedIn profile.
Let's get to it. Yeah.
Let's do a little quick roundup of what we know in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. CBC is projecting wins for incumbent Amanda McDougall in CBRM District 5, downtown Sydney. Also in CBRM District 11 in the Waterford area for Darren O'Quinn. Also, we're projecting wins in CBRM District 9 for Dave McKeegan over Kyron Coombs, who is Kendra Coombs, the MLA's brother, and actually the nephew of former Mayor John Morgan. And in CBRM 10, a decisive win for Paul Nikituk, taking like 75% of the popular vote. Elsewhere in CBRM District 3, we have Michael Vickers out quite a bit ahead of Blue Marshall and Glen Morant in second and third, with Tom Vickers pulling in number 3. In CBRM District 8, Derek Kennedy, former federal candidate for the Conservatives, in a neck-and-neck race against young Stephen McNeil, who's a repeat candidate in this district and others. They each have 1,200 votes and change, and Sean Lesnick, a repeat candidate, coming in a distant third at 573. And then finally, we're waiting to see what's happening in District 12, where it's a really tight race between Kim Shepard, who has come close before to unseating the councillor there, at 49% of the vote. Then Lorne Green, who is the incumbent with 43%, distant third and fourth is Gary Borden and Chris Marr. Of course, one of the first results we heard earlier tonight was that Brenda Chisholm-Beaton will be back for her third term in Port Hawkesbury, and that's where we have our municipal affairs correspondent, Adam Cook.
All right, thank you very much, Steve. It was one of the closest races of the whole night. Actually, only 30 votes separating Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, who won her third term in office, over challenger Archie McLaughlin. This is the second time that McLaughlin, who is the head of the main Unifor union over at the Port Hawkesbury paper mill, has run against Brenda Chisholm-Beaton. Last time around, he was within 350 votes. This time around, 30 votes separating Brenda Chisholm-Beaton and Archie McLaughlin. Town Councillor Jason O'Coin took a leave from council to run for mayor as well, too. He finished a distant third in this race with 314 votes. There's some new faces around the council table, even though the mayor has been re-elected. As a matter of fact, 3 new faces out of the 4 available seats. Ian Langley, the vice chair of the Strait of Cancel Superport Corporation and one of the founders of the Strait Area Offshore Wind Task Force. He took the highest number of votes among council candidates, 1,229. Not far behind him was Todd Barrett, who is the owner of a Hyundai dealership here in Port Hawkesbury, Gateway Hyundai. He took 1,027 votes. The 5th woman to be elected to Port Hawkesbury Town Council, Paula Hart, makes some history tonight. She is the first woman since Brenda Chisholm-Beaton back in 2012 to be elected to a council seat. She took 943 votes. And rounding up the 4 councillors, an incumbent councillor, the only incumbent to be re-elected, Blaine McQuarrie, a retired social worker. He picked up 835 votes. Finishing just under the running, as a matter of fact, only 15 votes behind Blaine Macquarie. Fellow incumbent Mark McIver, he served 20 years on council. That 20 years is now over. Donald McDonald finished in 6th place with 718 votes, and bringing up the back end, Mike Curry, another first-time candidate with just 191 votes. But it's not simply about who got elected to council, Steve. It was also a time for residents of Port Hawkesbury to vote in terms of whether they prefer the previous 4-lane configuration on Reeve Street, or if they prefer the 3-lane configuration with strategic turning lanes that's been in place since 2019 with the Destination Reeve Street project. The 4-lane voters were 1,018, while only 673 voted to keep the current 3-lane configuration. The plebiscite is non-binding, and the results won't necessarily impact whether or not the province, which actually owns Reeve Street, will be able to stay with the 3-lane configuration. But this could be a bit of a thorn in the side for the mayor as she returns to council and gets sworn in with the rest of her council. They'll be looking for more answers for Nova Scotia Public Works later on. Voter turnout here in Port Hawkesbury, 70%. That is pretty much what we expect from Port Hawkesbury, although the mayor, in speaking to me afterwards, did say that she wished there could have been a little more people. But given that this is the first all-electronic vote in Port Hawkesbury, she's pleased with the numbers and pleased to be heading back to the council table as the mayor for a 3rd term. That's where we are in Port Hawkesbury. Steve, back to you at the election desk in Sydney.
All right, and pleased we are to have you there in the Strait area. Thank you very much, Adam.
My pleasure.
That is Adam Cook in Port Hawkesbury, where we have a win for Brenda Chisholm-Beaton, and you have a council now appointed in Port Hawkesbury. We're going to go now, Portia, before we head back to Halifax, to Victoria County, where we have at least 3 new councillors in, and probably 4, but this is an interesting situation. In Victoria County District 8, where there's some really quality candidates, it's one of those districts where it's like, couldn't everybody spread out and run in different districts? Really enjoyed our conversation with them in our candidates roundtable. You have a tie vote between Wanda Hennick and longtime head of the Bay St. Lawrence Community Centre. This is at the very top of Cape Breton Island. When you think of beautiful, remote Cape Breton Highlands, this is the area you're thinking of north of Aspey Bay for Dingwall, Bay St. Lawrence, and Aspey Bay. And just to find out what the heck happens in a municipal election when you have a tie vote, we put out a quick call to Blair Gallup, who's the returning officer for Victoria County. Blair, are you having a good evening?
Well, in election world, you always want your results to be definitive. So it's made for an interesting evening here in Victoria County.
What's that old curse? May you live in interesting times.
It is that exactly.
So in Victoria County District 8, we have 85 votes for Patterson Gray Rochon, 36 votes for Ricky Buchanan coming in 3rd and 4th in the unofficial results. Wanda Hennick and Amy McKinnon have 145 votes apiece. What does that mean?
So right now, like you said, these are unofficial results. So we're going to be looking into the process of what happens when there's a tie. We're not 100% sure right now, so I don't want to go on and mislead anybody. So we're going to be doing some checking over the next couple of days, and when we know, we're going to be letting the candidates and the residents of Victoria County know.
Blair, is this your first kick of the can as a returning officer?
It is not. This is the second time that I've been the returning officer here in Victoria County and have done it a number of elections, both provincially and federally.
Have you ever hit on a tie before?
This is the first time I've had a tie or even come close. So, yeah, this here's a different situation that I have not run into.
Okay. When do you think you'll have it figured out?
I'm hoping that we're going to have some answers on Tuesday when we do make results official. So when we once those results become official, then we'll have a process in place on what's going to happen next.
Right on, Blair. Thank you very much. I hope you have a less eventful rest of your evening.
I will definitely do so. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
That's Blair Gallup, who's returning officer of Victoria County, where we have a tie in Victoria County District 8 with Hennick and McKinnon getting 145 votes apiece. Your other winning candidates are incumbents Fraser Patterson for Bulladree Island, Jackie Organ for North Ingonish and Niels Harbor, right next door to Bay St. Lawrence, and new candidates Rosella Bourne in Bedeque Bay, Jess Kerr for the Village of Bedeque, with a lot of issues around infrastructure, and Donna Matheson-Lafort for Victoria County District 1 in Iona. And we're going back to Halifax now with your host, Portia Clark.
Thank you, Steve Sutherland in Cape Breton. We're just watching a feed of the room where Andy Fillmore is hanging out with a lot of the folks who have helped him in this municipal election campaign. It certainly looks like a party. It looks like they may fire up the karaoke machine a little bit later, but we also might be getting very close to a speech. And so, as you watch what's happened here, we spoke with Way Mason maybe 10 minutes ago, conceding this mayoral race ostensibly to Andy Fillmore. So what are your thoughts about how this has gone? And so early in the night, too, we thought we'd get a lot deeper into the night before we saw these kinds of, it's not definitive yet, but we're close.
Yeah, it looks like, as Way Mason said, that he wanted to be kind of not prolong it. And with the numbers going the way it is, that, Andy Fillmore, as we're waiting for him to come up. But like Way Mason mentioned, that MP name recognition is certainly hard to beat. And he ran a very well publicized campaign. There was ads everywhere, and his platforms, did have a lot of sweeping promises, and that might have really appealed to people. But just to remind people, things that Andy Fillmore did promise to freeze the tax rate. He is still one vote around council, so he'll have to really now work with the rest of the 16 other people around council to see if they will agree. There's lots of priorities, just different priorities that people have around that table. So he did promise to freeze the tax rate. He did have a different, when it comes to affordable housing, he wants to do more different types of building and kind of get more affordable housing and different types of building construction materials there. So it'll be interesting to see when it comes to all the promises that he did make. What will happen there if he can work with this new council.
And how quickly, for example, he can or practically do things like, get rid of red tape. That was another one of his promises. And maybe most notably, too, talking about how to address the situation with homeless people. Andy Fillmore is in the room now. Jubilant would be one word to describe how he's looking, but he's just getting the microphones on as he gets ready to make a speech. It's a very full room, a happy room, as you might expect, given how he's done so far. He's just stepping up to the microphone now, and he's pulling out a speech of some sort. And we're going to hear from Andy Fillmore next as he leads the polls. At this point in the night, it looks like this will be going to him. We haven't officially called it based on the numbers that we're seeing it yet in terms of projections, but it certainly looks like we are headed toward a Mayor-elect Fillmore in the Halifax Regional Municipality.
Hey, Portia, next week, by the way, we're going to talk to current outgoing Halifax Mayor Mike Savage as he leaves about what he's learned about the nature of relationships between local governments in the province and his new role as the Lieutenant Governor, coming up next week in our program on Information Morning in Cape Breton, as we get prepared for the torch to be passed.
Well, we asked for Mayor Savage tonight, and he was busy doing other things. He's still busy.
Probably happy being busy doing other things, getting ready to mount that new uniform as the Lieutenant Governor.
Well, absolutely. He's hardly resting on his laurels, is he? He's moving from one thing to the next and still very much in the public arena in Halifax, but broadening it out to Nova Scotia. So I'm sure he'll be spending a fair amount of time up there or down there, as you say, in Cape Breton.
And you just interject as soon as you get Andy Fillmore, Portia, but I have some results for Richmond County if you're interested. We have results for Richmond County. Sean Sampson is in as the incumbent, a decisive win over former Warden James Goyetch. In District 2, it's Lois Landry taking over Michael Digdon. Michael Digdon won in the rare situation of having been suspended for a month for breaching the code of conduct during the course of this district.
I just want to jump in and we'll head to Andy Fillmore.
Is it warm in here or is it me? It's kind of warm. Thank you, Lion's Head, for having us tonight. Really happy to be here with you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, we did it. We got across the finish line tonight and could not have happened without the help of all of you. Thank you so very much. Volunteers, campaign corps staff, neighbors and friends, voters, everyone who made this happen tonight. Tremendous thanks for putting your faith in me. Together, we have met this moment in HRM. Am I coming in loud and clear here? All right. Let's get a little more on that mic. There we go. We have an incredible opportunity of growth for our municipality, and we are going to meet it head on with your help. Thank you so much. Thank you, Halifax. Thank you, Dartmouth. Thank you, Bedford and Sackville and Fall River. Thank you, Hubbards. Thank you, Tantallon, Peggy's Cove, Prospect. Thank you, Sambro. Thank you, Hammonds Plains, Timberley, and thank you, Spryfield. I am grateful, I am humbled by and honored by the trust you have placed in me. And most of all, I am excited to be your next mayor and together take charge. We're just getting going here now. And together we're going to take charge of this growth in HRM, and we're going to make the best possible future that we can all enjoy together. Thank you, Eastern Passage. Thank you, Cole Harbor, Musquedobbit, Sheet Harbor. Thank you, Ecum Secum. I got to know Ecum Secum. It's a fantastic place, a beautiful place. And every place in between all of these places, our community of communities. We live in the best municipality in the country, and I know it's going to get even better when we all work together to make it so. Now, I want to say to the councilors that were elected tonight and to our new councilors, congratulations and welcome. I cannot wait to get to work with all of you. And I'd like to say to the other mayoral candidates, thank you for putting your name on the ballot. Thank you for your ideas to make HRM the best municipality that it can be. We put ideas out there. We are going to have a good path forward because of all the dialogue and debate that we shared. And I want to say in particular to Way Mason and to Pam Lovelace, it was a good race. Through many debates, we provided the citizens of HRM with new ideas and solid choices for our capital region. And I want to say thank you to both of them for their public service. Thank you both, Way and Pam. Now, we're in the business right now in this moment of thanking people, so I'm going to raise the name of Mike Savage. Mike, you put HRM on the national map, and I know that you will continue to be our ambassador as our next lieutenant governor for our capital region, not just the capital region, but the entire province in your new role. Thank you, Mike, for your 12 years of unbelievable service. Thank you. And congratulations, Mike. Now, we all know a candidate doesn't win an election without a lot of help. So I'm going to take a moment here to thank my campaign team. I want to thank everyone who put up a sign, who made a donation, who knocked on a door, who made a phone call. People are in this room that have done all these things. I'm so grateful for all the support from old friends and from new ones who have made this whole enterprise possible. Thank you so, so very much for helping us to get here tonight. Deepest gratitude. On July 3rd, it was about 100 days ago, just over 100 days ago, I announced my intention to run to be the next mayor of HRM. And over these last 100 days, I have crisscrossed the Halifax Regional Municipality. I've crisscrossed it more times than I can count. I've visited neighborhoods. I've visited communities. I've listened to people. I've listened to all of you. And listening to your concerns and your ideas on how we can make our city ever more vibrant, ever more livable, ever safer, and ever more efficient. It's been a great 100 days of listening and learning, making new friends, being reacquainted with a lot of old friends, and sharing our vision and a strategy for a bigger, better, and bolder HRM. Again, I want to say thank you. We do this together. And I'll tell you this tonight. I promise to be a mayor for all of HRM. A mayor for all of HRM with a plan to speed up and build more housing, to reduce congestion and improve transit, to ensure public safety, to respect your tax dollars, and create strong main streets in all of our communities, across our community of communities. Now, I want to tell you, I grew up here. I raised my daughter here. I love this place, and I care deeply about the people who live here. I'm excited to get to work with this new council for you and with you, the citizens of HRM, to build a great municipality. The future awaits us, my friends. We're going to do this together. Now, I also promised that my first act as mayor would be to call up Premier Houston and tell him he has a partner in me, and I can't wait to get going. So let's get going here. Tonight, we're going to finish up here. Tonight, however, let's celebrate our win. Let's reflect on what needs to be done. Let's be excited about the opportunities this fantastic municipality affords all of us. This is Halifax's time, my friends. This is our moment. Our opportunity is here in every corner of HRM. We'll embrace it. We'll harness it. We will meet this moment. Thank you, HRM, and thank all of you.
So Mayor-elect Andy Smith with his acceptance or celebratory speech, Andy Fillmore, with his, his celebratory speech. He's hugging people in the room now, running around and talking to many of the people who've helped put him in this next job, leading the HRM, a city of 335 electors, but 500,000 people, a half million and growing. And he addressed some of the challenges ahead. But mostly, Haley, this was about rah-rah, being excited about what's around the corner. This is our time and moment, and his love of Halifax, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And as people, to remind folks that Andy did have a career as a city planner. So it'll be really interesting to see how that will work. He had some involvement in big plans for downtown and the beginnings of kind of looking at the region and how the region can grow. So it'll be interesting to see, as a former staffer, how he sits in that mayor's chair and works with the whole council to deliver some of the promises that he made on the campaign trail and really what his focus will be. Yeah.
It was also interesting in the HRM race that there was a person running for mayor who is experiencing homelessness, was running his campaign out of his tent. I'm not sure how he fared as far as votes go. There was an effort to get people who do not have addresses the ability to vote here. He didn't have a strong chance, obviously, but the homeless question will be looming over Andy Fillmore as he takes the mayor's chair, and some may be wondering, including perhaps that candidate, how quickly Andy Fillmore will move to close encampments or move people into other kinds of shelters or accommodations.
Yeah, his campaign promise was that, he recognized that the existing encampments were still needed, but Andy Fillmore did talk about how he felt that the city's strategy should be to not open new ones and to actually move people as soon as their tent, or any shelter popped up outside of those, homeless encampments, that they should be moved along and connected to a shelter or, any other resource. But as we know, there are not, the province is working hard, and we do have some new pallets and tiny homes coming online, but they might not work for everyone. So we'll see how Fillmore's discussion and plans for changing that strategy, if that will actually happen, because he is, again, one vote around the council table, and that's the city's strategy. The CAO right now has the power to open camps. So it would take a whole act of council to change that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, and sounds like it will be, a change of direction for Halifax in regards to this particular issue.
It could be,
once that new council is sworn in, and if they follow Mayor-elect Fillmore's lead on this way of dealing with the situation of people who do not have a place to live, and those numbers may grow even before any kind of strategy like that is in place. Sandy, I know you've been sitting on a few results over there, places outside of HRM, I think?
Sure. We can go to Southwest Nova and go to the community of Clark's Harbour, where another incumbent has been defeated tonight. Rex Stoddard was the mayor. He's lost by just 7 votes to Clay Kenny in Clark's Harbour. So that's another in a fairly steady trend. I'd say at least 2/3 of the results tonight have gone that way. St. Mary's on the Eastern Shore, we have only 3 council seats that were contested, and the winners are Emma Thibault in District 1, Scott Beaver in District 4, and James Fuller in District 5. We have some other results as well if you want me to continue. In Argyll, there were some acclamations, but 4 again seats were filled. Malcolm Madden for District 1, Greg Foster in District 4, Nicole Albright for District 5, and Rachel Surrett winning in District 9 in Argyll. And I could also move on to Annapolis County, which I think we promised a long time ago before some of the CBRM and Halifax.
For those who are waiting on those Annapolis County results?
Yeah, if they haven't gone online to find the results themselves. 2 of 11 seats were acclaimed, so we do have 9 winners here in Annapolis County. And again, for those people who aren't familiar, when you have these county councils, We don't have a warden to speak of tonight yet because the people elected now will be choosing the warden among themselves. But I'll do a rundown on Annapolis County. Carrie Ann Parsons-Salzman, taking District 1. Jesse Hare, District 2. Justin Enslow, District 3. Chuck Cranton, District 4. That one was close. That was just a margin of 5 votes there. District 5, Lynn Longmire. District 6, John Welch. District 7, Ted Agombar. District 8, Niall Harding. And then District 10 was the other contested district, Brian Fuzzy Connell taking that seat. So those are those that we are aware of that we hadn't got to up till this point. And when I last checked, no change in the Halifax number. So the trend that was established early and that led Way Mason to concede and Andy Fillmore to speak, holding steady.
All right. Thanks, Steve. I'm Sandy, pardon me. We're heading to Steve,
A lot
who
of S's.
has the new mayor or mayor-elect of CBRM with him.
Right on. And Sandy mentioned wardens who are elected later. Just a quick note that Amanda McDougall has been declared elected in the unofficial numbers. We have final counts in for Richmond County. So Warden Amanda McDougall, who came in last time on a reform ticket as a councillor, is once again in District 4 in Richmond County. And she told us on the air recently that she will be going for warden again. But yes, as you mentioned, Portia, longtime politician, former MLA and cabinet minister, former leadership candidate for the PCs, former federal candidate, and of course, former mayor of the CBRM for 2 terms. Now you're mayor again. Cecil Clark is on the line from his headquarters in Sydney at the New Horizon Achievement Centre. Cecil Clark, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's a great night.
So in your campaign, you said you'd learned since the last time around. What have you learned?
Well, what I learned was the personal connect with your constituents and the public, that sitting at your desk working tirelessly on their behalf is not always understood or seen, and it means having a clear set of priorities, and that's why I talk about council term priorities, a clear plan that will be validated by the province for 4 years with an 8-year projection, and that will allow me to get out with the public and deal with the back to basics and putting the taxpayer first.
How's it feel?
It feels great. It really feels good. This is a continuation of a lifelong passion of mine, building from my grandfather Cecil, who was a municipal councillor. So this has been something that has been in my blood, public service, and to be rewarded by this victory tonight, I can't put words to, but just great appreciation and admiration of a hardworking team of people that always stayed with me and were steadfast out on the streets, working online and whatever they could do, and we've been rewarded for that.
Kind of interesting to see that the person who came in second after you was Joe Ward, who didn't run a traditional campaign on the ground.
And that's just it. It's second. I focused on what I thought would be a winning campaign, and that was working socials and getting out on the ground and being in the community. The other thing we were benefited from is that with a number of candidates representing different areas of the CBRM, I think that provides a dynamic as well, and the ideas that come forward. Thankfully, the citizenship got engaged with those ideas and they responded. And as I just previously just said, I mean, there's been some good ideas brought forward. Just because someone didn't win doesn't mean you dismiss what they talked about. Those matters can be part of the council term priorities. I spoke with the Premier this evening as well as Minister John Lohr, and we'll be meeting next week. So I'm hitting the ground running as of Monday.
So what do you want to get out of that meeting, Cecil?
Well, clearly I talked about restoring the pledge for the $15 million, looking at the role of Build Nova Scotia with our waterfront, looking at our long-term issues around wastewater for the $250 million of projects we have outstanding, and making sure we have a renewed relationship, talking about a proper service exchange for roads, and making sure that we have the buy-in to our long-term plan, which is to have the term priorities and be budgeting out and asking the department to play a role to validate that what we bring forward as a council meets the government's test.
So what would you say, Cecil, voters are getting in the decision they made today to go back to the old mayor?
They're going to a renewed mayor, a new person that has been reinvigorated, has a real focus, has, like I say, lessons learned. One of the candidates said about baggage, you know what baggage is? It's experience. And if you have experience, you can put it to work. It means learning and wisdom. And that's something I want to bring to the table with my new colleagues that are around it. And I look forward to the days ahead of making sure we roll up our sleeves, get to work. the taxpayers first and get back to basics.
We'll be talking again soon. I know you have a lot of people in the background there because I can hear them. So Cecil Clark, congratulations.
Great time, and they deserve this win tonight. Thanks so much, Steve.
Cecil Clark, who is the new mayor-elect, is projected by the CBC Decision Desk in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. By the way, we're also projecting wins for Eldon McDonald in District 5, Dave McKeegan taking out Ken Tracy in District 9, Paul Nicotuck a decisive win to replace the outgoing Darren Brookschwager in CBRM District 10, and Darren O'Quinn coming back into Waterford. We're keeping an eye on District 3, District 8, and District 12 in the CBRM.
Thanks, Steve. Well, from Mayor-elect Cecil Clark to the new mayor of Halifax, Gareth Hampshire is at the Lion's Head, which is Andy Fillmore's headquarters, and celebration site tonight. Gareth, are you there?
Here we are. Andy's just arrived. He's given a victory speech. Congratulations, Andy. What do you think were the deciding factors in this race for you?
Thanks, Gareth. It's an amazing night tonight. You can see the supporters, the volunteers, the campaign contributors are all out here looking forward to a bright future, and that was the key to the victory. People have taken a look around the city and seen that the way that we're managing our growth is not working for us. It's working against us in terms of congestion and a transit system that could be forming better, housing that's not getting built fast enough. So this election for me was really about how we manage our growth to make sure that it works for all of us and not against us. And that was the deciding factor.
What were you hearing from people knocking on doors throughout the campaign in Halifax about what mattered most to them?
It was quite a mix, but it all came together about livability, really. So it was things like congestion, about not being able to get to work on time, not being able to get to your classes on time. It was about buses being delayed because of congestion. It was about the price of housing. It was about a recent municipal residential tax increase. So it was really all about the way we grow and how we can grow more smartly to provide the homes and the connectability that residents of HRM need and deserve so that we can become the world-class city that we know we have it in us to become.
And you pay tribute to your opponents as well as Mike Savage. Now, you did come in for some criticism, as would be expected in any campaign. And what's been said about you is that some of your platform, things are already happening in Halifax, Andy. And also you're one person in a council that would have a lot of votes. How can you now deliver on a lot of these promises you've made?
Yeah, well, I think people had a look around and they decided if they liked what they were seeing, they had a vote in one direction, and if they aspired to something better, then they could vote in another direction. And of course, that's what happened here tonight. The mayor is a single vote around the council table, but the mayor also has tremendous power to convene people, to work directly with leaders in other levels of government, to work with leaders in civil society and the not-for-profit sector. The mayor has a certain moral suasion, and the mayor who has the right professional credentials, and in this case I'm talking about city planning, can come to debates around the city council table with some degree of knowledge about the subject matter. I think these are the things that distinguished me from the field. From the field of very good competitors, but in the end distinguished me from them.
You did mention your first course of action would be to phone the Premier, Tim Houston. What will you be saying?
I'll be telling him that he's got a partner in the mayor and in the council and in the municipal system to solve the housing crisis. That's job one. We're going to build more houses and we're going to get people into housing solutions that are appropriate for them, and we're going to do it very quickly.
How will you do that, Andy? There's a big contractor shortage. There's a lot of barriers in building housing. You've talked about speeding up approvals. How are you going to make this happen?
There are three big levers the municipality has to speed up housing, not just the volume of houses that are built, but its affordability as well. That is speeding up approvals significantly. It's putting online for development more low-cost land. That's another lever on the cost of land, on the cost of housing rather. And the third is to remove municipal roadblocks to innovative construction techniques like modular housing and flat-packed factory-built housing. These three things, my team's research shows we can reduce the cost of new housing in HRM by double-digit percentage points in about 2 years. So I'm firmly have those three changes in my sights, but I must say it also depends on how we work with the province, and that relationship is going to be very important.
Okay, and I know you're busy, you've got things to do. Just at the end, now what about encampments? That's another issue that you've come in for a fair bit of criticism on, about freezing the number of sites from here on in. What will your first move be on encampments now?
The longer someone lives in a tent, the more their mental and physical health deteriorates, and the harder it is to lift them up and get them into a better situation in their life. So the province has come online with tremendous alternatives to tents, tiny homes, pallet shelters, enhanced shelters. So that is where the emphasis needs to be, where the energy and resources need to go, and that's going to be good for everybody.
Okay, congratulations, Andy. Well done.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
So there we have it, Andy Fillmore joining us. He is going to be the new mayor of Halifax. And there's a lot of happy people in this room, Portia.
Yes, it's bubbling there. I can see it and I can hear it. Thanks very much, Gareth. That's Gareth Hampshire with Mayor-elect Andy Fillmore in Halifax. And we'll be heading shortly to talk to CBC reporter Luke Ettinger, who's in West Hants, but we can bring you the decision there. The CBC decision desk is projecting Abraham Zabian will be the mayor in West Hants Regional Municipality, and we'll come back for the reaction to that there. But right now, we're reaching Elspeth McLean-Weil. She's won the mayoral race in the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. She beat out incumbent Carolyn Bolivar-Getson. And Elspeth's celebrating now at a fire hall in Wyleville, and that's where we've reached her. Elspeth, hello, congratulations. Okay, we can't hear you super clearly, Elspeth. Is there a place you can move to that's a little bit clearer, possibly?
Hey, Portia, election night interviews are always like, hello, can you hear me?
I know when you're having a lot of fun and you're celebrating, it's not always a top priority to talk to the media, but we also sometimes have issues with our lines, crossed lines. Well, we'll try to get back to Elspeth in a moment, but I think have you heard anything about the tie in Victoria County? Do you have anything on that, Steve?
I think those are final unofficial numbers for the night.
Oh.
And as we heard from the returning officer in Victoria County, he's been a returning officer in many elections in different jurisdictions. And to his knowledge, it's never happened before a municipal election, so he's not sure what to do. So at 145 apiece in that district at the top of the island, we're going to have to wait until Tuesday to find out where things go after that. We do know it's going to be a new councillor there, and it's the first time we had women running in that riding in like years and years and years. And so the two potential winners are both female in that riding. We're going to have to wait till next week.
Can I just say on that note, in terms of women being elected tonight, Steve, we're going to see a all-female, all-women council in the town of Annapolis Royal from the mayor on down. So Mayor Amory Boyer is returning to office, was the incumbent there, but bringing in a whole council, which will be entirely women, which I don't think we've seen anywhere else in the province tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I know all the results aren't in just yet, but it's certainly interesting to see that happen in Annapolis, one of my hometowns.
Well, in the last time out, of course, we had 3 significant seats in the 5 municipalities in the island go to females, with Amanda McDougall now not reoffering, Cecil Clark projected to win by the CBC decision desk, and we had Brenda Chisholm beaten, re-elected Mayor of Port Hawkesbury for the 3rd time out. And we have Amanda McDougall, who was the warden of Richmond County currently. She's back, and she has said she is going to reoffer.
And I know you're going to be speaking with her shortly, but right now we've managed to, I think, reach Elspeth McLean-Weil, who's the new mayor or mayor-elect in the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. Elspeth, do we have you there now?
You do, Portia. I'm here.
Well, the last time I talked to you, I think, was as community contact. Now I'm speaking with you as the mayor-elect. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, when we called you a moment ago, we heard nothing but celebration. How are you feeling about the race?
Well, I feel very happy. I've been campaigning since door to door since the middle of June. And I announced in early April, so it's been a long campaign, and I'm just very, very happy that we've gotten to the finish line and that the results are the way they are.
And how do you explain the way this has gone? Many people would have said you were up against a political giant. Carolyn Bolivar-Getson's been a cabinet minister, an MLA, and a mayor.
Yeah. Well, the thing from the early days of door to door, I kept hearing something like it's time for change. And I just felt that during all of the summer months, and it just kept building as the fall and we approached election day. And I've done a lot of work in the community, and I was well known as a business person here, and I just think all of that helped to contribute to people recognizing that perhaps I could offer leadership in a different kind of way here.
And how are you thinking about how you will lead and what you will lead on, Elspeth?
Well, I think my first job is to build a good team of around the council table. 4 new councillors elected this evening, and 6 of the councillors are people that have already served, so they come with experience. But 4 new councillors and myself as an inexperienced mayor, but with lots of other experience in leading meetings. So I think my job will be to make sure we are consistent in the things that we think are important in the community. Because I did door to door, and that confirmed a number of issues that I thought were important, and it confirmed with what I heard from the people on the doorsteps. And I need to look at how that lines up with what others heard as well. And then we'll look at the projects that are in place already in the pipeline from the previous council and figure out a plan forward for the next 4 years. So it's a little early to really outline that plan in any detail because I'm just one voice around the table.
Yeah, fair. But some of the things you added in your campaign were around things like taxation and housing and public transportation. What are you thinking about, just to zero in on transportation in a county that's, set up the way that Lunenburg is? I mean, it's big and it's rural, and it's also quite necessary.
Yeah, and I think there was a study tabled at council earlier in the spring, and it did look at how we could build out from the area surrounding the town of Bridgewater. So that would include communities like Hebbville, Wildville, and Osprey Village, where much of the development is taking place at Exit 12, where there's commercial development as well as a big apartment complex, several apartment complexes. So that report was in the hands of council, so we'll take that. I think when we look at building, you have to start looking where the population density is, and so that's in the area surrounding Bridgewater. To me, it's really important that we work with the town of Bridgewater so that we develop a system that is seamless for the user, but recognizes we don't want to duplicate service. We want to collaborate. I think that's really important, collaboration on a system that can work for both the municipality and the town. And then the other part of it is that Lunenburg County Wheels, which is a volunteer group that provides service to more of the outlying areas, should be tied into that as well. And that's a service that's for New Germany and Petite Riviere and some of the outlying areas. So there's a lot of work to be done on how we can make it work.
Yeah, a lot of work to be done, but the campaigning is behind you, which you may be relieved about, given that I gather you were bitten by, mostly probably got a good reception on the doors, but you actually got bitten by a dog on the campaign trail, Elspeth?
I did, and there are a lot of dogs in this community, and I knocked on more than 3,500 doors, and I would say there's at least two dogs in every house. That's 7,000 dogs, and one of them ran out and bit me, and that was quite an experience.
Oh my! You've recovered from it now, I hope.
Well, it took 9 weeks. Yeah.
Any stitches?
I had stitches and antibiotics and VON treatment and lots of care from the medical system to get it healed. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Memories from the campaign trail. You'll carry that one with you probably for a while.
Yeah, I will.
Well, I'm sorry to lose you as a community contact, Elspeth. I've enjoyed our conversations early mornings. Perhaps you could, appoint a designate, but you probably have a lot of other things you're busy with, so don't move it to the top of your priority list. But thanks so much for your time with us.
Well, thanks, Portia. It was my pleasure to do the community contact reporting, and I learned a lot about our community and met a lot of people through that as well.
I bet. Well, Elspeth, all the best in your new journey. Thanks so much for the time you spent with our listeners, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon in your new capacity.
Okay, thanks, Portia. Take care.
You too. That's Elspeth McLean-Weil, the new mayor-elect for the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. 17 minutes after 9 is the time now, and you're listening to a CBC Nova Scotia Municipal Election Special. We're sitting at the point in the night where we do know who the mayors will be of the two largest municipalities in Nova Scotia, but we still have some other significant results to come in. We don't know a lot about the council that'll be sitting around the table with Mayor-elect Andy Fillmore, for example. We know some familiar faces will be there, people like Kathy Daigle-Gammon and Tony Mancini. They've already been re-elected or returned to office, but a lot of the seats are still an open question, including the ones vacated by Pam Lovelace and Way Mason, who conceded the election race a little bit early or on in the night. So much still to come. So far, how are things sitting with you, Haley? What's stood out from some of the results we've seen with some, fair to say, some big upsets?
Yeah, I think the upset train has certainly become a theme. So as we were talking about, we saw just Elspeth McLean-Weil in Kentville to see, a Councillor Andrew Zabian take that seat, and then to have Stanley Jacklin, town of Shelburne, as we were talking with him earlier, the town's first black mayor, and to see, David Cogan in Amherst defeated as well. Rob Small, former mayor, to take that seat back is interesting, and Wolfville to see that mayor there, Wendy Donovan, defeated. So there's quite a lot of incumbent mayors defeated, actually. And then, of course, Halifax, we got a new mayor with Andy Fillmore.
We do indeed. And we were talking earlier with Steve about women in office in CBRM, and one who will be returning to office there is the warden. I suppose that's still to be determined by the process. Once you are elected or re-elected, then the warden is chosen, Steve?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So in the rural districts that have wardens, you elect a council, and then the councillors vote for warden. And in the case of Richmond County, as I mentioned earlier, Portia, Richmond County, last time out in 2020, was elected on a reform ticket. I mean, that previous council had been identified by many as dysfunctional. It was a clean sweep of councillors last time out. And we ended up with a female warden in that district for Richmond County, Amanda McDougall. And Amanda McDougall, it turns out, has won again in her district in Richmond County. This is District 4 in Richmond County for St. Peter's, River Bourgeois, and Sampsonville. As a matter of fact, it was a pretty decisive win over former councillor Gilbert Boucher. She got almost double the votes that Gilbert Boucher got, and we actually have the warden on the line this evening. Amanda McDougall, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Steve.
So what's the scene? Where are you? Where did you find out?
Well, I'm at home. We had an office set up between St. Peter's and my house here in Grand Grave, and we were collecting the results as they came in. So we had a pretty early indication that things were going extremely well.
Right on. So we're now at the other end of the campaign. As a matter of fact, we did our roundtable with you in your district really early on. Yeah. So you've had a lot of conversations since then during the course of this campaign. How would you summarize the themes that people were talking about to you when you went door to door, when you saw them at meetings?
Yeah, I think, people were talking to me about affordability. There are lots of people in our communities. Richmond County has a major portion of our population that are seniors. They're on fixed incomes. And so we heard a lot about affordability. And so I think we didn't just hear that knocking on the doors. We heard that in the last 4 years, and so it's why we introduced things like, the low-income property tax exemption for the municipality. We introduced things that would incent affordable housing developments. So we've been really working hard on trying to kind of make sure that the most vulnerable people and the people who are struggling the most in our community are they're still being able to afford to live here. The bottom line is that's gotten harder. It's gotten harder for every municipality as costs have been going up and up and up. So we froze the tax rate in the last 2 years, but of course assessments have been skyrocketing. So we've been really working hard on that, working hard on housing, and working hard on economic development, particularly in the Point Pepper Heavy Industrial Park, which will help to keep taxes low in all of the regions of our county.
Now listen, you have a situation this time that you didn't have last time, and that you know better. You knew what you were getting into this time around after having served 4 years. How does the reality of local government compare to what you expected before?
Well, I guess the reality is I kind of knew what I was getting into before, because my career has been spent working around municipalities, whether through, municipally funded economic development agencies or, working with Chamber of Commerce, that type of thing. So I thought I knew, but this time you're right. It was more of an awakening after I was in the seat. I think the thing I learned though, and the reason that I wanted to run again is that it doesn't have to be all downhill in rural municipalities. And I feel like that was a prevailing sentiment in our communities for a really long time. There's lots of opportunity on the horizon for Richmond County, and that's why I wanted to run again, was because I think I'm really well suited to try to take advantage of some of those opportunities to grow our community. Managing the downward spiral is not where any community wants to be, because it means things keep getting more expensive and elusive. I think, for me, running again, having had those 4 years of experience, you're right, it was a more well-informed decision about what I was going to be walking into. But at the same time, I think it almost created more incentive, because you also realize the ability you have to impact the quality of life and improve the quality of life in communities.
Amanda McDougall, thank you very much. We have to let you go, but are you going to run for warden again?
Oh, absolutely, I will. And, we'll see what council decides. At the end of the day, I'm really pleased to be here and being able to support the citizens of District 4. And at the council table, I'll have the interests of all Richmond County in mind.
Very good. I know we'll be talking again. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Steve.
Amanda McDougall winning in District 4. She's going to be seated at the table with Sean Sampson, who won over James Goyach. He's back in. And Lois Landry, a new councillor, a decisive win over incumbent Michael Digdon in District 2. Lois Landry offering for the first time. She said she wanted girls to see other people like them in politics. And just before we go back to you, Portia, a big flip in District 3. We're waiting to find out what's happening in CBRM District 3. This is where Michael Vickers, who's actually from outside the district, from the Pier, has been in the lead all night against Blue Marshall from Escazone. We must have some polls that clicked over in Blue's favor. With one poll left to report, it's too close to call. Blue Marshall in the lead with 890 votes. Next up, Michael Vickers with 659.
All right. Blue Marshall maybe in tough there. Steve, thank you. It's 24 after 9. And returning to office, Abe Zabian is returning as mayor of West Hants Regional Municipality, a race we've been following through the night, and we have him on the line now. Hello, Mayor-elect Zabian.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. How are you doing, more to the point?
I'm doing fantastic.
How are you feeling? You've got your family there by your side to watch you return to office tonight?
I absolutely did. My wife, my children, my dad, a lot of supporters stopped by to show support. It's been a wonderful night.
How does that feel as someone who is returning to office, after 4 years? Part of your campaign is, how do you like what I've done? Do you want me to do it, to continue what I'm doing? How validating is that for you?
Oh, it's very validating. People are believing in the vision. People are believing in the work we've done and what we plan to continue doing, and it's rewarding to know that you're on the right track of doing the things that people are expecting you to do. So I'm so ecstatic right now.
I'm sure you've got that to-do list spinning through your head right now. What is, at least one of your top priorities?
There was quite a number of them on the campaign trail. So I had my priorities going forward, and that's rural transit, finding engineered solutions for flooding issues. Mm-hmm. Enhanced recreational opportunities. There was multiple things. On the doors, people were, they were showing concerns about the increased speeding on our roads, the quality of the roads, and again, roads are some of them are municipal, some are provincial. So, we have a mandate to go and to work with our provincial and federal partners to enhance and increase the level of service that people are expecting.
And there's that twinning project for Highway 101, which seems to be stalled right now, related to the dispute over the abateau at Lake Pisiquid. What role will your municipality play in that, or is that basically up to the provincial and federal governments to haggle over at this point?
It's an interesting project. It's provincial, federal, but it deeply affects our community here. So going forward, we've heard a lot of things at the doors, and we are going to take those to the table and make sure both of those levels understand what West Hants is looking for, and for them to make a decision, with that in mind.
And what are you hearing from people? I mean, do they want that lake to stay as a recreational lake, or for there to be, fish flowing into it and more of that water from the Minas Basin coming into the lake?
people have come accustomed to having that lake. They appreciate the serenity of it. The community is built around it. But then we have another large portion of our community who want to ensure that fish can pass through a system that is being engineered and designed, and they want to ensure that system will work and it will be efficient and address the needs of the marine life that needs to pass it. So we hope for a successful conclusion on that project and get the highway just done and let's move on.
Successful and hopefully speedy, I'm sure, is part of the wish.
Absolutely.
There for you. Windsor, unfortunately, was the site of tragic deaths during flash flooding. Are you hoping to better coordinate with the province to improve emergency alerts for the future? Is that something that's one of your priorities?
Absolutely. So anything to do with flooding, it's our emergency management office, our staff, liaising with the province. They've been hard at work on their legislation and creating those regional centers around the province to support municipalities and for all municipalities to be better equipped to understand who's going to do what when something happens. So all the boxes are checked and we know who's where and who's going to be doing what, so we don't have to liaise when there is an event. So here locally, we've been very hard at work on improving our communication systems, our radios, our Starlink system, our policies, procedures, who calls whom if there is an event, if we can't reach one, who's the next after that, et cetera, and just ensuring that planning documents, everything going forward has a lens of looking at wetlands, wet areas, areas that are low elevations or prone to flooding, and where we should develop currently and where we shouldn't be developing going into the future. So, it's definitely highlighted things for us here locally, and we are working hard on ensuring that we are ready for the next one.
Yes, the stakes are so very high, as you don't need to be reminded there in the Windsor area. We've seen another Zabian on the ticket in Kentville. Is that a relation of yours?
It's my cousin Andrew. That'd be my late Uncle Mike's son. I'm so proud of him. I'm so happy for him. He loves municipal politics. He loves Kentville, and they have definitely gained a very, very loving individual for their mayor as well. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do for that community as well.
He may look to you for some advice, but 2 mayors in the family, that's unusual.
Yeah.
It'll make for great conversation at the family get-togethers. What's that?
Well, we love our community, so I'm very happy for him.
Well, congratulations to you as well, Mayor-elect Zabian. Thanks for taking time out of your celebratory night to talk to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's Abraham Zabian. He's keeping his seat as mayor for West Hants Regional Municipality. And Steve, you were there. You know who your next mayor is going to be in the CBRM, but also disappointment there, too, for those who haven't made it.
Yeah, and we had an interview with Cecil Clark earlier, but as indicated, there was an interesting result there because the number 2 candidate in the race this time around in the mayor's seat was actually Joe Ward. And in the beginning, there was kind of broad consensus that some of the lead runners were Cecil Clark, Rank McSween, who'd come close to unseating Cecil Clark in the past, and James Edwards, who is a current sitting councillor, had widespread organization across the municipality and had an organized campaign. One person who was not running a conventional campaign on the ground, was just running it completely online. He was a longtime watcher of CBRM Council and a prolific generator of critical content about the CBRM online. And he has come in second, with a respectable showing for his first run as mayor. Cecil Clark is winning with 13,000 votes plus, with just one poll left to report. But Joe Ward got 24% of the popular vote with 9,370 votes to come in second, to come up the middle. So he is a software entrepreneur. He's run for council before and been defeated. He ran his campaign totally online, as I mentioned, and he is on the line with us right now. Joe Ward, hello.
How you doing, Steve?
I'm all right. What do you think?
I think it was a fantastic result. It was just the second goal. Obviously you want to win, but the showing was fantastic, and it kind of demonstrated what I've thought all along, that authenticity can can be competitive.
Well, I mean, you had lost in a council run before. No offense, but not an overly impressive showing. What made you think that you could take a shot at the big seat?
Well, you know what? I think that basically a lot of people had told me that before when I was running for council in the districts is that my platform was too big, that it was almost like a mayoral platform. But the mayoral race kind of draws more attention, so you have a wider audience. And I think that the support I had was sort of buried by just some people that were, more well-established in the district, me being a newcomer to that district in 2016. So, it didn't. I don't think it really showed the full extent of the support if I could sort of get running and get more people to know more about me.
So what do you think was the turning point? Where did you sense a bit of momentum during the course of the race?
So I think there was a double whammy. One, I had been focusing a lot on online messaging to make sure that people really had a good chance to know who I was and what my policies and ideas were. But the CBC debate did wonders because people got to see me sort of in real life kind of thing and to see how I would compare to the other leaders on the stage and contrast our performance in that way.
So look, man, why not run a traditional organized campaign?
Oh, that would be a mistake. Absolute mistake. So my campaign had a budget of $690 and the efficiency of my campaign was just absolutely through the roof. So what would happen if I tried to run around the entire municipality delivering signs and knocking on doors, which is actually incredibly inefficient, I would have probably finished last.
But you lost, man.
Well, I lost, but I showed that the system is changing because you could take the campaign that I ran and then make some adaptations to it, incorporate a little bit more of, like, say, flyer drops and things like that to make sure that my platform is in, every home in the CBRM, and I think I could close the gap.
So do you think you'll be back in 2028?
I'm not someone that ever aspired to politics, but I am someone who's always aspired to doing better things for the community. And I have a certain niche with my technology background that I think, makes me adept at figuring out things like how to solve tax systems. So I would not be surprised at all if I'm back in 2028.
Joe Ward, thank you, and I hope you have a good night.
Thank you so much, Steve.
We'll be hearing that name again one way or the other. Joe Ward coming in second, but of course, your mayor-elect in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, the second largest municipality in the province, is former cabinet minister and former two-term mayor Cecil Clark. And just a quick result for District 3. We've been watching District 3, Portia, so we have the unofficial results in with all polls reporting. Blue Marshall is back in District 3, the only Mi'kmaq member of council, one of three Indigenous candidates around all of Cape Breton Island tonight, the only one to win. His community must have rallied. That's just an assumption, but that is what has happened before. But an impressive showing by young Michael Vickers, who actually lives in the Pier, but ran in District 3, which is a pretty big rural district. Kind of interesting to see him come in only 200 votes behind Blue Marshall. But Blue Marshall has been an on and off again councillor in this district. He's on again.
He's on again. Thanks, Steve. Well, we haven't talked recently about the situation around the council table in HRM. We know who the mayor is going to be. Andy Fillmore has been elected mayor, is mayor-elect in HRM. But as far as the results for councillors, Sandy, you have a bit more on that emerging picture.
Yes, the CBC Decision Desk projecting three new results tonight. We'll start first with Becky Kent, and we project that the incumbent will return for District 3. Again, neighboring District 4, Trish Purdy, where CBC Decision Desk projects she will win, along with in District 14 in the Halifax region, John A. Young projected to take that seat. Then Lisa Blackburn not reoffering, and John A. Young, I think, will be another African Nova Scotian joining the Halifax Regional Council. And if we duck away for a minute, we'll give you a rundown on those where there are still races, and we haven't made projections in Halifax in just a second. We will go to the town of Lockport on the South Shore because we've had another incumbent go down there. The new mayor will be Derek Amalfa, who's defeated Corey Nickerson tonight. And among the four councillors is an interesting story, not long after you were talking to the Zabians. The councillors include Anna Chetwin and Kevin Chetwin, a mother and son.
Yeah.
So those are some of the results. And if we're ready for it, we can also have a look at the Halifax region for those districts where we've not yet made mention. If you'd like, we can go down the line.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And you may have noticed we haven't heard from District 2. David Hensby is the incumbent. It's pretty close for somebody who's been in either an MLA or a councillor for more than the past 30 years. David Hensby is leading, but his lead is only 400 or 500. He's got about 54% of the vote. He has exactly 54% of the vote. His challenger, Will Gilligan, at 46. So, and we have about 11 tables to report there. That's 18 of 29. So it's trending in David Hensby's favor, but I would say that one's still too close to call, not knowing about geographic pockets and the like. Then moving on to the ones we haven't called. We will go next to District 7. This is the south end of Halifax, and we only have 2 of 23 tables, which is why we've not heard anything there. And this is a district with 6 candidates. Way Mason obviously giving up that seat to run to be mayor. So far, the lead is Laura White, but she only has 25.7% of the vote. Just in back of her is Kathy Servin at 982. So things are really early and really close in District 7, much too close to call at this point. North end of Halifax, the peninsula, Virginia Hinch in the early lead, but again, she is polling under 27%, so we have a large split between 7 different candidates, and closest to her in second place so far is Anika Riopel at 16.5%. And then we have District 9, Sean Cleary, the incumbent. He has a narrow lead over the closest of several challengers. He is one of 6 looking to return as the incumbent. In second place is Tanya Millay. She is trailing by about 100 votes. He's just a titch under 30%. She's at an even 28. District 10, Catherine Morse, another area where we have hardly any results so far. She is the incumbent, polling at 58% right now, but that's only 1 of 24 tables. So that one is still very early. District 7, the Spryfield-Sambro Loop area, Patty Cuddle, the incumbent, polling at slightly more than 51%. And the next challenger is Bruce Holland. He is right now slightly more than 500 back. We've got not quite half the tables in there, 13 of 28. Moving on to District 12, Janet Steele with a fairly healthy lead, but this is another 5-way split. She leads by about 500 over the incumbent, Iona Stoddard. However, again, only half the tables reporting, that's 12 of 26. So there could be an upset there, or at least an incumbent defeated. I'm not sure whether it's fair to call that an upset. District 13, Nancy Hartling in the lead with almost half the votes there. So there's one with an awful lot of candidates in the running, but that's splitting a little more cleanly for her. We just declared John A. Young in District 14. Incumbent Paul Russell trailing with 10 of 28 tables reporting for District 15. So we could have another incumbent in trouble there. Moving on to District 16, this is where Tim Outhit is no longer running. For lack of a better term, we'll call it the Bedford area. Jean Saint-Amand in the lead there. He has slightly more than 40% of the votes, and with 5 other people in the running, the way it's splitting, he has a pretty good lead. But here again, we only have 7 of 31 tables reporting, so a lot of votes yet to be counted.
Yeah, that's 27,000 electors, I think, in that District 16. I think it's the largest riding in HRM.
Certainly.
And every one of the Bedford candidates has a platform based around making traffic a little smoother for people, understandably. But interesting to see John Young, of all the people we've been speaking about at this point, the only new councillor going in. The 5
as of now. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and he's representing Hamilton Plains, Upper Hamilton Plains, Lucasville. Sounds like he was on the doors a lot. He had former Green Party, I think, leader Joanne Roberts with him. High profile. Help on the political front for someone who's new to politics.
And for people, John did have quite a lot of community connections. He's a Black man representing a historic African Nova Scotian community there in Lucasville, and very active in the Lucasville Greenway Society, which was a group that's looking to put in a multi-use pathway, because that Lucasville Road, as people know, it's very high traffic and there's no sidewalks in that area. So that's been one of his big things.
All right. Well, that's the lay of the land now. But as you said, Sandy, the results coming in for Halifax have been a little bit slower. They're jammed up, I guess, as they try to count all of those votes.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going on. Why some tables are faster than others, but if we have more numbers, we'll pass them on as soon as we get them.
All right, I'll look for your wave. We're sitting now at 18 before 10. Gail Smith is blazing a trail in Middleton. She's the town's first Black female mayor. She's a former nurse and as a longtime councillor and the town's deputy mayor. She's more than familiar to people in Middleton, even as she makes history. And she's joining us now. Hello, Mayor-elect Smith.
Well, good evening, Portia.
Good evening. How are you doing so far, Gail? I know you were...
I think I'm just sitting here realizing what's happened.
It's still sinking in, is it?
It's still sinking in, yeah. We met at the fire hall because that's where that's where the voting was at today. And it just became real when the results came in because we did e-voting. So the results come in very quickly, like within 15 or 20 minutes after 7. We knew who my new councils are going to be.
Yeah, and how are you feeling about your new council? I mean, the suspense wasn't.
Well, I'm feeling optimistic because we have 3 old and 3 new.
Okay, something borrowed, something blue.
and
You'll have some experience there.
So, yes, and some of the people coming in, some of the new councillors have experience in other things like doing municipal work. Some are one's an accountant, and one is a businessman. So it's going to give us a real eye-opener for everybody. And some of them have never been on council before, so we got some council training to do. And I just hope that we can, we want to hit the ground running, but we want to run all together.
I like the sound of that. That's great.
Well, that's what we need to do. We need to work as a team.
Yeah, and you were acclaimed to the mayor's position. No one stepped up to run against you. How did you feel about that? Would you have preferred to have a race?
Well, it would have been fine to have folks run against me. I had no problem with that. I was surprised because there had been people that had said that they would run against me. And then when the time came, they changed their mind. I don't know why, or I never asked them why they didn't run. But one gentleman couldn't run because he moved out of town. So that's why he couldn't run.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
The former mayor, we talked about it. I went to tell him that I was going to run against him for the mayor, and he said, "Well, if you're going to run, then I'm not going to run against you."
And why do you think they did that? Were they making space, or did they just didn't think they would be able to beat you?
I think they didn't think they could beat me.
I'll go with that.
We'll go with that one.
I like your confidence. And as far as your priorities, I mean, you know them well. You've been deputy mayor, but what do you need to do?
Well, we really, like I said, we've talked about that. We've got a couple of projects in the works that needs to come to fruition. So we need to get down and let's get this done. We've talked about this for almost 4 years. We've done a lot of groundwork to bring these projects in, but we need to see them started.
Yeah, are these housing projects or?
They're yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Both of them are housing projects.
Yeah, it's a universal
the other project
need.
that we had was the reservoir, but that is already being built as we speak.
That's a big one for that area, and hopefully it'll attract
it's huge.
more people to your town. Yes, well.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? We've got to have the better reservoir for the amount of people, the housing and stuff that we want to bring in.
Absolutely. Well, we often talk with our community contact, Amanda McDougall, about your town there in the heart of the valley. And I want to say congratulations again to you, Mayor-elect Smith. I wish you the best.
And thank you very much.
It's good to talk to you tonight.
To you.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Portia, I guess that's kind of the attitude you have to have, isn't it? I just didn't think they could. They just didn't. Yep. Didn't think they could beat me.
Project that confidence. It's 8 minutes before, make that 13 minutes before 10 now. Did I see a signal from you, Sandy?
Yes, we need to correct a mistake we made earlier tonight. We thought we had the final numbers from Queens, the region of Queens, but we did not. And and the upshot is we made a mistake. We said that Terry Doucette would be the new mayor. That is in fact wrong. Scott Christian will be the new mayor. The final numbers are in. He's won by a margin of 194 votes. So our apologies for that mistake. That's the only mistake we're aware of we've made on the air tonight, and that was a while ago. But we're clearing the air now and setting that straight. So it's Scott Christian, the new mayor in the region of Queens. Also wanted to mention that a lot of people were waiting for results from either the town or county of Antigonish, given all the controversy over amalgamation and the tremendous interest in the municipal races there. But there's been a delay in ballot counting. We do not have numbers to pass on yet. I guess we've got 13 minutes to go. So if we get them, we'll do our best to get them out. But it's not for lack of trying. We are trying to get that information out tonight, but so far no luck.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Well, we have David Cogan on the line now, returning as mayor for a third term in Amherst. Actually, I want to correct that. He is not returning. He is outgoing as mayor in Amherst after several terms. We've reached him there tonight. Mayor Cogan, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
How are you feeling about this change?
Well, I'm obviously disappointed. I offered for a third term because I wanted to continue doing the work that I've been doing. I'm very proud of the accomplishments over the 8 years that I've been the mayor of Amherst and the improved situation and position of Amherst within the province. But the people have spoken.
And why do you think they moved in this direction? You know, perhaps just wanting to see something new.
Well, I've had several people say to me, it seems to be a history of 2 terms and get a new person in the chair in this area. That may be part of it. I really don't know. I think that the accomplishments of the current mayor and council were significant, but obviously the people were looking for change.
And you were running against a former councillor and former mayor of Amherst, Rob Small. I mean, how tight actually was that race?
Well, I thought it was tighter than it turned out to be. He won by a fairly significant margin, and that doesn't bother me in the least. I think I'm a little more surprised at some of the choices for council. We had a very solid council, and only 2 of the incumbents were reelected. So obviously there was a feeling in the community that change was needed, and they made their choices.
And as far as the Chignecto Isthmus work that you've done and that now the mayor-elect Small will need to pick up, where do you see that going? What role will the municipality need to play in that conversation?
Well, the isthmus as an area of threat is of local importance beyond, because if it floods, there will be loss of life and not just loss of financial and commercial and residential interests. I will certainly hope that he will carry on the fight to see that through, and I will continue to do it, lobbying whatever I can to try to make that happen, because I'm still a citizen here and live here and would be affected if that isthmus is flooded, and I will continue to work with our provincial leaders and federal leaders to hope to see that resiliency project, as they're now referring to it, come to fruition.
So even though not mayor anymore, you plan to still keep up that work or keep up that pressure to make sure that isthmus work gets done? Well, it doesn't sound like you're going to be stepping back entirely. Thanks very much for speaking with us this morning about this change in the political landscape.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
You take care. Thanks for joining us on CBC over the years.
Okay, you're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye. That's David Cogan, the outgoing mayor for the town of Amherst. Rob Small has been elected there tonight. Steve?
Can I just say that with all our coverage lately, Portia, I noticed you and Haley and I are so careful in saying the word isthmus. I've never had to pronounce the word isthmus. so often in my career as a broadcaster.
It's a tricky one.
You do it so well. It is very, very tricky. You don't want to lisp your isthmus. We're going to go now to Richmond County, where we heard earlier from the Warden Amanda McDougall, who has retaken her seat in the district. We have a new member also of Richmond County Council. Lois Landry is a retired educator. Municipal politics actually runs in her family, Portia. Her mom was councillor for part of this district. And Lois believes there's not been a woman elected in this district since her mom's time, but that has changed because she defeated the incumbent Michael Digdon, more than doubling his total, 558 votes to 248 in Richmond County District 2 for Discouse and West Arishat. Lois, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Steve, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you.
Tell us just a little bit about your motivation to put your name forward after you retired from education.
Well, I think it speaks to more about my motivation, period. I probably would have thrown my hat in the ring several years ago if my personal life had allowed it. But, big job, and I was a single mom for a long time, and I really felt I couldn't do justice to this position. And so now that I have the time, and it is a really incredible time to be a resident in Richmond County. This is a community that has done very little but navigate decline in population, decline in economic development, decline in school enrollment, and we're seeing an opportunity now. We're seeing growth, not just an opportunity for growth, but there are more voters than there were in the last election. There are more kids in our school systems. So it's a really great time to be from Richmond, and so I'm really excited to be able to take on this role at this point in our history.
You also told us the other day in our Candidates Roundtable, Lois, that as a woman who's held several leadership positions, you believed it was important for everybody to see themselves reflected in council.
Very much so. My mother was, I believe, the second councillor ever in Richmond County back in the late 70s and early 80s. And although there certainly have been some women, there have been times where there have been no women on council. This is, truly the council that wouldn't even support the campaign school for women at one point. So I've always believed that we as a society benefit when our young people see themselves represented in all parts of government, all leadership positions. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity to take on this role and for young people that I used to see in school systems that are still in those elementary and secondary schools. I think it's important for them to see women in positions and to be able to aspire to that.
Well, we have to let you go, Councillor, but before we do, what's something you learned from your mom?
My mom was the kindest person that I knew, and so I think when you bring kindness into your work, and people still talk about her like that. So I think when you bring that into your work, you really can't go wrong.
Congratulations, Lois Landry. Look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you.
Lois Landry, your new councillor for Richmond County District 2 for Discouse and West Arishat, Portia.
Thanks, Steve. And we have some more results coming in HRM, although all of those districts aren't decided yet. But Sandy, what do we know at this point as we wind down the clock here?
Well, we have projections on 3 more districts. We'll start in District 16, Bedford. Jean Saint-Amand is projected to be the next councillor. In District 13, Nancy Hartling, the winner, and projection that David Hensby will pull it out in District 2, the longtime incumbent, projected to win there. I'll also mention we have a final result from Colchester County, where Christine Blair did face a challenge as mayor, but she's held on. So there's an incumbent who did win tonight, joining a smaller group compared to those who lost. And I should also mention that in Colchester County, the post on the county website is that the plebiscite in favor of a managed deer call has been overwhelmingly approved. So
okay.
We were talking about deer before as well. That's the vote in Colchester County.
All right. Deer, a problem in Shelburne that the new mayor there will need to grapple with in some way.
It's also been a problem in Richmond County, Portia. On Ilma Dam, there are just deer running all over the road. I hit one myself not too long ago, and it's actually come up at council because there's so many deer running the roads.
Yeah. I think you have another final result there yourself, Steve.
Yes, we do. I've been waiting to pass that along to you. We had final results in all the districts except for District 12, which is in the Pier. Kim Shepherd, after several runs, has finally taken council for District 12. The unofficial results, but with 11 of 11 polls reported, she takes it over incumbent Lorne Green with just, 129 votes. Kim Shepherd wins District 12, 1,500 and change votes to 1,400 and change over Lorne Green.
And so will be the sole woman on the new CBRM council?
She was the only female candidate that was challenging, but there is an acclaimed councillor, Earlene McMullen, for North Sydney.
Oh, Earlene's
Yep. So
back.
there'll be, two women. Earlene is back, and I'm sure she will be heard.
She will be heard.
Definitely.
And sometimes it's good just to have that solidarity, just one other person there with you on council, especially when you're starting as a new person there and Earlene is experienced.
Definitely. And also Kim Shepherd is really actively involved in the community and has been she has run several times and came within 50 votes of defeating Lorne Green last time.
All right, this time all the way. Thanks, Steve. We do have some new people joining council in HRM as well. Sandy just mentioned a few of them. Nancy Hartling, we talked about John Young before, but Jean Saint-Amand before, and that's in District 16, the growing district in Bedford. Tell us a little bit about him, Haley.
So yeah, he's a communications guy. So he knows how to market, and he's been running his own business for quite a few years. So he also, I noticed, had virtual open hours. So that might have helped him, if you make yourself really accessible and get people to book in and talk to him. So that was maybe a strategy that he had. And we did hear that he had lots of signs around. So he's been a business guy in the community for a long time. And also, so Nancy Hartling in that St. Margaret's district, the Prospect Road, St. Margaret's. So that's the district that did change a lot, actually, and that lost Hammonds Plains and gained some Prospect Road communities. So it'll be interesting to see maybe how that district plays out. But Nancy Hartling, she's been really involved in youth sports, and so she's also a software developer by trade, and she's really focused on climate change mitigation, and obviously she's representing an area that dealt with the devastating wildfires very recently. So that was high on her priority list about mitigation and how to move forward in that community.
I'm sure I saw the words egress several times
Yes.
in her platform or her campaign literature, that being the seat vacated recently by Pam Lovelace. So some new faces around council, but as we said, David Hensby heading towards his, 34th year or so in politics.
Oh, yeah.
He's going back, and there's still some open questions as we head towards the end of the night. Nothing breaking over there at the results desk at this point, Sandy?
No, and just checking the Halifax Regional website, no, there's been nothing to lead to any more projections or any final calls, I'm afraid.
All right, we'll take that anticipation into tomorrow. I know that both Steve and I will be thinking about our programming for Monday morning with new mayors. You can anticipate they may be on the show. I know you talked about having Mike Savage on, the new and incoming Lieutenant Governor, Steve. So
yeah, and we're going back to the future in the CBRM. Cecil Clark coming back in. And just a quick note, Portia, that there may be a recount or a challenge in District 8 in Victoria County where there's a tie, dead to heat, and there's only 25 votes separating the winners in District 8 in the CBRM.
Okay, can't get any more suspenseful than that. It's been great having you listening with us and watching us tonight. Thanks to all of you who have brought these municipal election results to our listeners in Nova Scotia. Sandy, great to work with you. Steve as well. Thank you, Haley.
Welcome
Thanks,
back,
everyone.
Sandy.
My pleasure.
Come back soon, y'all. We may be in for another election soon.
Oh, my God.
Have a great night, everyone.